Are you doing it?
Okay, we ready?
Yeah, it's on.
Our meeting
Thank you to whoever got me this.
water and sewer and internet is now in session. Allison, would you lead us in pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We really don't have an agenda for today's meeting. So we're just going to look at sewer, water, and internet as the three main things that we can look at to improve them. Oh, okay, thank you. So we just need to get our infrastructure priorities set correctly.
Right, and the reason we had to have a special meeting is relevant. I think it's important to let everybody know we're doing this because the legislature is meeting soon. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to decide how to allocate among the counties the funds the state received from the federal government for infrastructure upgrades. So we didn't want that meeting to take place without us having discussed it publicly and trying to come up with some priorities for this county to submit to our representative state.
Okay, so we should have Region 4, and we should also have
NRGRDA.
NRGRDA, thank you. There's just too many doggone little things to say. Is everyone there, Abby?
Yeah, Leslie Taylor and John Tuttle and Jen Grace.
Okay. We have a sheet that Leslie sent to us on things, on the programs that are happening. So Leslie and John. You guys,
Good morning.
Good morning. We have, what is it, Leslie, 17 projects?
I believe it was 17 projects on the list that we sent.
Okay, thank you. John, this will also give you an opportunity to talk about the broadband because that is on the list also.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. So Leslie, or John, let's go ahead and do the broadband if you don't mind. They can turn to that and we can ask questions and possibly eliminate something on the 15th.
Maybe so. That might help. Just wanted the commission to know currently the programs in play pretty much that grant monies there on the table to pick up is AARP money, and there's different tranches of that money at the state level. The first one that came out was the Gig Ready, which is public entities can apply for that but you pretty much are essential to have a partner with you on that, a partner internet service provider. There's a LEAD program, but that's strictly private sector. There's some applications going in for that, but that's private sector and they do what they think is best for them. And we're not privy to where that's happening. What we've heard is most of the applications that are in the hopper at the state is just by hearsay is north of Charleston, most of them, but because there's more providers up there. Southern West Virginia is limited on the providers. The other program that just came out is USDA Reconnect money, which that is a public-private partnership deal too. It's a little involved, and it has a different time frame on it. It's a 5-year build out versus what ARPA is a 2-year build out. So all that being said, there's match money that's involved. The programs that are involved with ARPA are 25% match. If you select, certain ISPs in the state, internet service providers will work with the public entity and try to cover that match, but that goes into rates and so forth to cover whatever borrowing or whatever they have to do that. Or the local entity can use some of their ARPA money for match to go with that. Bottom line is those programs are very heavy. Private, pretty well driving the train. Without a private sector partner that's willing to come into the area and actually put broadband in place, you're sunk. They're the ones that these programs have a lot of information that have to go in with the application that are pro forma financials, and those financials have to come from the internet service provider. Neither the public entity, either a county or a town that would want to do this, or Region 4 or whomever would the capacity to put that together. It pretty much has to come from the internet provider, because they're the ones that know what it takes and how much it costs to put it on the poles and where they can get their backhaul. The limiting factor for having internet providers in your area is being able to get bandwidth from somewhere. They can't afford to buy it from Frontier or Suddenlink or someone like that. They have to have connectivity to their main system, wherever that would be. Currently in Region 4, the two main ones that have expressed interest are CityNet coming out of Bridgeport, and Gigabeam that comes out of near Bluefield down into their corporate offices just across the state line in Rich Creek, Virginia. But the people that run that thing are West Virginians, pretty much. So those are the two in the area. Frontier Countryman, and that has office in Beckley and has a lot of presence in Greenbrier County. They're mainly a wireless internet provider, but they're trying to get into the fiber game. They've expressed some interest too, but the two main ones are CityNet and Gigabeam. And to be honest, their capacity is pretty well tapped out, so they have to be very innovative when they get into these projects. The bottom line for the county is that's what you're looking at, and is trying to hook up with one of those internet service providers and then have them come in and do an analysis of exactly where they can go in the county to utilize this money over the next 2 years. The capacity issue is a pretty huge issue for them, because so they can't just say we're going to serve everybody in Fayette County, because they probably couldn't get it done in the 2-year period. So they have to target areas just like anybody else would. So that's a quick and dirty and that explanation. I will take questions from there.
That was just internet you was talking about, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, I got this.
So I have a couple questions. This sounds like you're just talking about cable. What about broadband via wireless?
These programs aren't wireless programs. They're fiber to the home programs. All three of them that are in place right now. The ARPA money, the programs that are out there right now, they're not wireless component, and the state and in general the industry is trying to work towards getting fiber to the home eventually, because wireless is a little bit it's just a little bit moving back into the obsolete phase one of these days. Right? You're correct. It's the quickest way to get decent connectivity to some of our more remote areas. But right now the focus is trying to, since they have the money to do so, is to get fiber in place for our residents so that they have down the road, they can get, 100 up and 100 down service to their house. That's what their goal is.
There's not any figures on anything right now on what the cost would be, correct?
Not in Fayette County. Well, not the only counties that have a couple figures in our region are Pocahontas and Greenbrier, and they've been working on programs before on the all along. So they had sort of projects in the pipeline. That's the two there that are somewhat ready. They still have a pretty heavy lift to get an application in, but and if you can get an ISP on, to come in and agree to work with you, I feel like you could get an application in by the January 31st date. At least that we've had sidebar conversations with the internet providers in the region, and they're interested in trying to do that, but they'll have to take a closer look at it.
Okay, John, so Gigabeam is on the Reach Creek, West Virginia line. And CityNet is based out of where?
Bridgeport.
Okay. And
they, to be honest with you, they both had intentions in the big picture down the road with just on their own trying to get into Fayette County. Both of them did, but that was pretty far down the road. We're talking 5 to 10 years probably. But now that this money's here, that could happen quicker.
Well, do you have a map you can show us of where they are right now? Where they stop right now?
No, I mean, they're right now, almost all their expansions are being planned as we speak. I mean, their service areas now, and let's just say CityNet first, they have a presence in Webster County, and they're almost to Pocahontas County. That's as far south as they are right now. Gigabeam has a presence, and they have RDOF projects planned up into Greenbrier and through Monroe County. That's what they have planned so far. Those two internet service providers already invested in that. You may have heard a lot of chatter about the RDOF from USDA. No, I'm sorry, they weren't the RDOF program from the FCC. That was a reverse auction for private sector internet providers to bid on throughout the state, and Frontier ended up getting a lot of those. But CityNet got some in Webster and Pocahontas, and Gigabeam, they have some in Greenbrier and Monroe, and the Greenbrier is not too far from Fayette. They have RDOF plans now in place where they have to build out to those areas with USDA. They're committed to do that. So they're going to be near Fayette County, but no one can show you a map as to where that's going to be yet, because they're still working on that.
So they're going to be in Greenbrier County, but they don't know what routes or anything. They don't know where they're going to lay at.
That's correct. I mean, they've got, internally, I'm sure they know where they want to go, but that's, again, they're private sector.
If they want to work with, to me, if they would want to be part of this and work with us, it seems like we could find out where their last point of to their build is going to be, or they're going to have wireless. We're going to have fiber. So,
that's a possibility. That's correct. But again, I mean, these internet providers are intertwined throughout the state, and they're competitors. So they don't necessarily want to show their cards. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand, but to me, I'm not speaking for the other commissioners, but for me, if I was to make a decision to work with somebody, I'd want to know where they was at, see who was closest that we would work with to get us fiber quicker.
Well, I think that's why we would suggest that, if that's the route you want to take, is to do an RFP for the internet provider, and then they would have to submit to you what they could do for you.
Okay, John, when I was building those towers for CityNet, using as the ISP, they came from up into Upshur County, and then we're coming back down, and they were going to go down the interstate and try to come into Summersville, with also picking up a tower in Greenbrier County. When I talked with Gigabeam, their plan was to come up the turnpike, and they're already in Bluefield, West Virginia, and Virginia, and parts of Princeton. Their thing is to come up the turnpike and have drops all through there. If you look at the distances, Gigabeam is closer to us than CityNet is right now at this point.
That's correct wirelessly, but at what period was that? Because over the last 2 years, things have changed drastically on wireless versus fiber to the home.
Well, that was 2.5 years ago when I built those towers for them up in Upshur County.
Just to give you an example, we had a project funded in Webster County that was wireless, and there was a lot of and that was ARC money from 2 years ago. And since that time, it's actually, that project will move forward with wireless, but it'll be overcome by fiber. Their intentions are to, the wireless will end up being a backup redundancy. I think most of these providers are going to go with the fiber cable as much as they can, especially in those major corridors, like you're saying, with the, since that 2.5 years, also Facebook is coming up through the turnpike that brings connectivity from outside of West Virginia that these guys can work with. But again, they're working directly with Facebook there, and they, we don't know exactly what their plans are there.
I have a couple of questions. One is, do you know who, do we just have Frontier and Suddenlink here now? Is that it?
Pretty much. You have Chantel.
And do you know who provides internet fiber service to Raleigh County, Beckley?
Pretty much the same ones.
Okay. If we were to want to cooperate with another county, say Raleigh and Nicholas, to build out Route 19, for example, on the ARPA fund matching, could the 3 counties match 25% together for a federal ask?
If you can get those cats together at one time, there would be I think it'd be a good idea. It's a heavy lift to get everybody to do that, but that's a good idea.
Well,
we've considered multi-county. Currently right now, the Greenbrier initiative is trying to get, they have some of their own dollars with TIF money over there that they may end up going with their own line all the way to Beckley, which will be a Greenbrier owned line to hook to Facebook. And then they will probably end up partnering with Summers and Raleigh on that particular section because it's going right through those counties. But those are still negotiations.
Okay, it seems to me, given our needs here, we have 2 sets, one for businesses and industry economic development to get, high-speed fiber to them. But I think we also have an impetus to get wireless broadband to our more remote areas, which you know, as everybody knows, are probably not going to see fiber for 10 to 20 years, if that. I mean, they're just too remote. Nobody's going to invest the money because there aren't enough customers served in those areas. We need towers in those areas because we have law enforcement and first responders, other first responders going out there, and they're not able to communicate with each other or, you know, potential victims or 911 or anywhere. So it seems to me like we, you know, rather than just say we're going to use wireless as a backup, I agree wireless is great backup for the areas where we have fiber, but I think we need to focus on also getting wireless in areas where we're not going to foreseeably get fiber anytime soon. What are your
I
thoughts?
mean, that's a good point, Commissioner. But I think, just to be honest, the focus of the ISPs and the state currently, the internet providers, is to try to make hay with this cable at this time. The wireless program, like I say, these federal programs are focused on fiber. The wireless component is a great way to get it there quick. You're exactly right. But right now, I'm not sure how that would be funded through these programs that are in play right now. Now, I think that there may be a tranche of the ARP money that comes out pretty soon that may have a wireless component. And it's all based on what the internet providers are willing to do in the area where they are. Even if it's wireless, they have to have a source of bandwidth from someone. So these providers are the ones that are driving the decision making. And I mean, that's just the way it is. They're the ones that, I mean, we have very little control on dictating anything. Even if you have all the money in your hand to hand it to them, they have so many things going on and so much on their plate. They're focused on getting what they feel is the best return on investment for them. And then if that is wireless, then they would look at it. They would, if that's the best route for them to go. But the conversations we're in, it's pretty well fiber. And then if you can get wireless in there and mix it in there and have a fixed wireless component, that would be great. But again, it would be up to the internet provider to make those decisions on how they would approach that.
I think what Ms. Taylor was talking about, working with 2 other counties or 3 counties, is a great idea. I just wish I'd have thought about it before she mentioned it. The only thing I got asked about this, I got asked about her when she brought that up, is where are they laying most of this fiber at? I've got a map up here, and where are they laying most of this new fiber at? Is it on like 64, 60, 219, most of these routes? Where are they laying this fiber at?
Now, when you say they and
Whoever's doing it.
I mean, well, Facebook's on the turnpike. The other guys follow the corridors. Usually it's one of they usually follow a road that has, these, your fiber is going to be more than likely it's going to be aerial. So they're also looking at where they can get on poles. 2 different analysis there, and then it's
so in other words, if it comes from Greenbrier County, it's going to come through 60 in the Fayette County.
Good possibility, yes.
Okay, because I was looking at Greenbrier County, and 64 heads over towards Raleigh County. It has to be 60 would come in on it. Go ahead.
And Commissioner, just to let you know, I mean, we already have a project that is coming from Green Sulphur off of a Segra line that Countryman is going to put in fiber to Meadow Bridge from that direction. So there'll be a fiber line coming from that direction. I can tell you that because we have that that was the application for Meadow Bridge.
Yeah,
but
$150,000 for that or something like that.
And Commissioner Taylor, the Countryman's going to stick a wireless component in there so they can light a good bit of that area up right now pretty quick, and then that fiber will come later. So your thinking is correct. It's just whether it's entirely up to the ISP how they handle that.
And the Countryman, is that a fiber too? Is that like CityNet? And we brought that one in to the mix, but is that
From Greenbrier County.
oh, that's the one from Greenbrier County.
Yeah. The
Okay, well,
Countryman is our project is a fiber to the home. They're going to stick a wireless component on their own, so they can go ahead and light up some of the people.
Well, to me, that, I mean, I don't know about the other commissioners. To me, if they're bringing that fiber all the way to Meta Bridge, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the quickest way to bring it, in my opinion.
I mean, that's the quickest way, but it's private sector, entirely up to them where they want to go and how they go.
Well, they're not working, they're not part of the private, public partnership?
Oh, no, they are. That's what I'm getting at is they'll come to Meta Bridge, but then they may not feel like it's affordable for them to keep going. Maybe they do, but a lot of this has to do with the big picture of how they can tie into different areas and tie into different places. This is very complicated, and it's very much, again, it's how these guys can get it in there over the next couple of years with the capacity they have. Suddenlink and Frontier and Chantel have had no interest in any projects where they don't completely own all the assets.
Yeah.
If they don't own everything, they won't be there. And that's why they're not involved with these projects.
Okay, John, so if I understand, we need to put out an RFP, but Commissioner Taylor bringing in the Nicholas, Fayette, and Raleigh group, I think that's good. I haven't talked with Dave Tolliver.
Well, and let me interject there again. You can bring those players in, but if there's not an ISP that can go from Nicholas to Raleigh County, then you can't develop the project. It's up to them. It's that private sector guy has to be willing to do that.
But
So,
to me, when you're talking about it coming in on Route 60, Raleigh County wouldn't be interested, and Nicholas County wouldn't be interested because they're piping it in right to into Meta Bridge. And it's too.
all your public entities are interested in doing everything you say, Commissioner, but you still have to have a private sector guy that's willing to do that.
Okay.
Who's providing service to Nicholas County?
Currently, it's all Frontier and Chantel.
And which counties does Region 4 represent? Because I know I try to keep them straight. NRG RDA doesn't have the same overlap as Region 4.
No, Energy has two of our counties. We have Fayette, Greenbrier, Pocahontas, Webster, and Nicholas. And Commissioner, we work closely with our partner PDCs all around us. Currently, there's a project that's in Roan. Roan EDA is sponsoring, but it begins and ends in Region 4. It's a 7-county deal, and most of it's outside of our region, but it begins and ends in our region. It's going to come down through Clay County to Dixie, and then go all the way around and come back in over at Birch River into Nicholas. And that is a CityNet project.
Hey, John, I don't mean to ask you. Sometimes I ask questions I never have answers for because they're out of the ballpark. But do you have a per mile estimate on what it costs to put that fiber in?
Well, the numbers that they give us, the internet providers, are for if this private sector and they were doing it on their own, they can get it for about 45,000 a mile, 45,000 a mile, just for the main, what you call backhaul cable. Okay.
$45,000 a mile.
Yep.
Right.
Just for the main. But once you add, once you get into the government program, you're going to add, 30% that you're going to have 75 to 80.
Wow. Is that, so in other words, if the commission, in order to work a deal or do a grant and all this, it's going to cost everybody in the mix another $45,000.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only way it's going to get done because they don't have the capacity right now to, when I say they, the internet providers don't have the capacity to do that on their own. So it will be government projects.
What return on investments do they want for that 45,000?
I don't, you have to ask them. They tell us it's that they don't have much of a return on investment, and I believe them. I mean, because if they did, they'd already be out here, serving people.
Now, the reason I ask him questions is just curious on if we were going to work with somebody where I don't know about the other two commissioners. I think we'd all have to figure out what would be the most economical route with what money we have compared to what we have to put in and working with somebody. So 45,000, okay.
Well, it sounds to me like even with what the state has, I mean, our ARP funds are only 8.1 million. I mean, and that's nothing in terms of infrastructure. And we need infrastructure of all kinds everywhere in this county. I mean, are there feasible projects that are fundable, fully fundable with these funds or not?
Are you saying broadband projects?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, we'll start with broadband, but that's really a general question I have because in the discussions we've had here, I mean, what's important to me is that we not start something that we can't finish, that whatever we do, we can fully fund something, that we have, something materialize from our investment. And we're prioritizing things like that can be done, and that can be done in a, reasonable time frame to benefit the county's economic development and the county's population throughout.
As far as if you're asking me that question, I mean, you're exactly right. I would agree with you, Commissioner, on that realm. You need to do the best you can with what you have and try to get something actually accomplished. Right now, committing money to the broadband, a specific amount, you might set aside a couple million until you got an ISP on board to look at things, and then go from there. But some of these other projects that Leslie can tell you about, there's some of them that this ARP money may be the gap that makes them worthwhile, and I'll let her discuss that a little bit. But that you're looking for something where you can provide gap funding and make something happen. That is what you're saying. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Sounds like.
I got one more question, John.
Okay.
Okay, we're talking about it's 45,000 a mile with private, and it doubles. I know there's amount of money that the private sector, with the PPP, there's a certain amount of money that the private sector can put in on these PPPs. How much is that, and how does that work?
That on one of these public projects, it's like you say, you have 25% is going to come from some other source of money besides the feds, and that money has to be either state or they have allowed for you to use your ARPA money as match for broadband in that situation. So what you're looking at there is either you provide that 25% or the internet provider provides that 25% in their rates, the way they put it together.
So in the rates, not the initial build.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. So that's the initial bill. I mean, well, it'd be the 25% they would have to borrow, or I would assume they'd have to borrow. Most of them are pretty well tapped out capital wise, I feel sure, but if they borrow that money, then whatever the debt service is will be covered within the project
Okay. So
rate
it's
structure.
basically 25% that the private sector could come up with if they had the ability to do that.
They've right. If they've been, looking again, they've been looking at those type things. If you have your own money there to help out with that, it's always a big plus. That's the deal. It makes it also, the state has made it pretty clear that if a county or a town puts their own, money in the game, meaning the ARPA money that you have, it strengthens the application. They make no secret of that.
I think we need to do two things. I mean, gap funding for projects that could be completed is one prong, but also, even developing, putting infrastructure along Route 60 enough to get some economic development to generate some tax dollars and revenue from there, then to roll into other things. I think we need to look at it, from both perspectives, trying to bring industry in, but also trying to improve quality of life for the people who are here. And who, as you know, in New Haven, we have people who don't even have access to running water now because the creeks are dried up. So I'm concerned that we, as we prioritize, that we figure out how to not just spend the money, do things that will help people as soon as possible, but also to try to bring industry in, and then we can roll that into maybe expanding further down 19 or, whatever our next, priority is. But it's hard to have the answers to this without any numbers and experts giving us, recommendations on it. I was hoping the comp plan would inform us on this.
Well, I'll tell you what, I now that I know that exactly where they're going to, and how much it costs a mile, estimated how much a mile, I think we could figure up something just to see what it would cost to get to 19. That's why I asked him questions, just so, it's not going to be correct, but it'd be maybe be close to give us something that we can say, John, what do you think about that? John says yes or no. So that's the reason I asked him questions, so we could maybe come up with something what we think it would cost compared to what John said a per mile cost is, and then if we
John, so an RFP for an ISP, what would that look like?
We take care of that, and we've already have those out in a couple other counties. We're trying to help Nicholas put theirs out right now, and we can help with that. We already have a template for that, and we also pay for that. You won't even have to pay for the ad, because that's what we've been doing for all our clientele, where there's projects that we feel are needed and have a good shot at being funded. We go ahead and do that because it's easier for us to do it, and then try to capture it later on if it's funded, and get it back then within our coffers, or we just take a little bit of a risk to get it going.
Well, can you, since you represent us and Nicholas and Greenbrier in particular in this scenario, could we not get the commissions, or attempt to, before the end of January, get the commissions together to see if there's some project that we might all want to invest in? I think the 19 issue might appeal to Nicholas County at least, and maybe Greenbrier might be interested in, something coming off of 60. I don't know, but
well, here's the way we see it will work, Commissioner, is if you want to go out for this internet provider, once you get them on board, more than likely it's going to be sitting at our Gigabeam, and then once Countryman may get involved, but if they, regardless of who it is, then you would coordinate with the other counties and their ISP to come up with that game plan, because it's sort of like the grid for power. the county lines don't mean anything to these guys. It goes everywhere. So you're correct in having to coordinate these things. And that's what we try to do, is coordinate them. And so when Nicholas picks their ISP and you guys pick your ISP, they have to work together. And that's the way that would work. And they would pretty well dictate where everything goes, because they'll go where they can afford to make it happen with the money that's available.
What could we do though? I mean, you keep talking about how industry is in control of all this, but what can we do ourselves or in partnership with the state or another county to appeal to them, like to make it attractive to build here?
Be just what you're talking about, being collaborative and work with other counties and be just be a good partner to where you are willing to accept what they give you, not just blatantly. I mean, you're the overseers of the money, but be willing to listen to what they have to say and then work. Most of these guys are really, those two firms are West Virginia people, and they want to help West Virginians. And they're trying to make a buck, but they also want to help West Virginia. So I think everybody working together, if they know you're a good partner and willing to work with them, that goes a long way.
Well,
I know you're frustrated. I get this from every single commission that we work with. Everybody gets frustrated because we don't have any control over it, but we really don't.
Wireless offer 60, but I think what you're saying is it'd be benefit to them. You can do wireless all 60, the Nicholas County and Raleigh County both from 60. Is that what you were saying?
well, I was saying we could probably partner with Nicholas to get fiber run along 60, which is where probably the most development would come over the next few years. And I mean, I think we ought to look at wireless, not 60, 19. And I think we ought to look at wireless along 60. But what I was thinking was, if we're putting out an RFP, why aren't we putting out a combined RFP with Nicholas instead of separate RFPs for internet? Like, why can't we make the project bigger and more attractive to ISPs to invest in the area?
Well, if they're going to come, either going to come to, in my opinion, if I was Raleigh County, I'd say let's go down 64 instead of 60.
Yeah.
Well, and can I interject on Commissioner, what you just said? I agree that trying to do it together is a good thing, but the other component of that is two separate projects can go after two different amounts of money. Nicholas can coordinate with you and you can coordinate with them, but you have your own projects. And more than likely that ISP that you pick is going to be the same one. They're the only ones that can make the connectivity work. But this is an open situation where we have to make it open selection process. You can work with Nicholas when you do your selection, talk to them about their selection. You can make the call that way, because it's not price based, it's qualification and what they can do based.
So you don't think if we coordinated with multiple counties and we had a Southern West Virginia Region 4 type plan, and we went out and advertised, that we couldn't attract more proposals from more companies because it's a larger project at that point?
There's just not any there's no providers that's out there, unfortunately.
Before they can make an offer on it. But here's what I've done. I asked Jamie to map how many miles it is from Meadow Bridge to Route 19, just so we can have something to look at and maybe do some figures. And then if we want to meet with him again in the next few days with John on just the fiber, we can sit down today when Jamie gets this. Hopefully that's what we'll have Ruth do. Make sure he gets it ASAP before lunch, and we can just do some calculating and just figure something out. What it may cost. Just, it's not going to be perfect, and then we can go from there. I mean, and then we can come back and have John come back again
And in the meantime, I'll talk to Garrett and see if they establish an ISP.
But I understand what John was saying. If Raleigh County wants to bring it down to 64, I believe that's what you were saying, and we take it up 60, they can still have a project going and it'd still be the same company with fiber. Just be two different routes. Right, John?
Yeah, and again, we do our best to coordinate all these projects because it is, like I say, the county lines are invisible to these guys. I mean, it's just, and part of the issue there, I mean, with like within Fayette, you're going to have CNET coming from the north, Gigabeam coming from the south. We don't know which one has more interest in taking in Fayette County. Regardless, I mean, you mentioned that Gigabeam's closer, but it still may be advantageous to CityNet to try to convince you they're come from the north and be there and do a better job. I mean, that's what they'd have to show you when you do your.
Of course, they would have some expansion between us and where they're located at too, though.
Well, they're planning on coming anyway. Their big plan before any of this happened 3 or 4 years ago when we were meeting with them. In their big plan, CNET plan to get to Beckley. And Gigabeam's big plan, they planned on being in Fayette County and so forth, years ago. But so this is opened the door to where they can make that happen quicker.
Are they coming down 79? Is that where CityNet's coming, 79?
They'll be up there. They've got projects planned. Like I say, the one project there is in 7 counties, so I'm sure 79's involved with that up in that country up there somehow.
Okay, John, I hate to do this, but Jenna from NRGRDA has to get in another meeting at 11 o'clock. So if you and Leslie don't mind, we're going to hop over to her. She said she'd be very quiet. She'd be very quick, not quiet, but quick.
Hi, everyone. So the project that we want to prioritize is actually on the list that Region 4 provided to the commissioners. And so they've got that information detailed in more detail than I sent. And so I'm sure that they can go over that with you all. But I think for NRGRDA, our priority is really the Ansett Sewer project, just because of the pre-engineering that's been completed, and also because of its ability to serve the Canyon Room Visitor Center and the potential job creation there, along with housing as well.
Okay, so your project, your priority project is going to be the Ansted Sewer project, which comes in, actually, we've got updated numbers because contractors were done and some add things were done. So it's coming in at $50,500,000.
That's the regional.
That's, yeah, the Ansted is up at the top there. I think.
Oh, okay.
The 13 million, is that the
That's-
sewer, or is that,
No,
which part of it
This
is
one
the
is
sewer?
25 million.
you basically want to get the Chestnutburg plant and the Ansted plant, which would be 28 million.
Oh, 28 million now because of updated.
Those are all of these are ballparks. Like the first preliminary budget, which is out for bid right now, was originally around 4.1 million. They went back and redid some calculations on some of the things before it went to bid. It came up to 4.3. So we're actually will have bids on that phase about 15th of December. Then we'll know whether even the numbers that we estimate are coming in correct.
Okay, so Jenna, going to Route 19, because I think that's our overall goal, is to get that area served. It's going to be over $50 million. And Leslie, just to let you know that also.
Well, I thought it says Canyon.
Well,
I don't mean to correct you, but I think what I got here, who sent this? John?
that's Region 4. But it didn't have the extra
what
added
Steve brought
on
in today,
to take it out to $19
I
way.
got soaked up into this and I'm so confused right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm just trying to figure out from Anstead to Canyon Rim or, the Canyon Rim Visitor Center, how much is it? 28 million?
Right, the estimate right now is on 28.
Okay.
All right, so anyway, Jenna, thank you for your project priority.
One more question, Jenna.
Yeah,
Just before you get off here, you got 6 minutes.
okay.
Wait, and I have a question too, so.
Okay, I'll make it quick.
Quick.
So there's no money needed for this project going to Canyon Rim Visitor Center from Anstead, right? It's everything's been, hold on, I think it's already been funded, correct?
That is
No.
not correct.
No.
Oh, Leslie got on there.
Thank you, Leslie.
Leslie's got something to say about that, I'm sure. Leslie can probably actually give you a lot more information about that project than I can.
I'm gonna throw one thing-
Go
one
ahead.
thing out here, it's going to the Canyon Rim Visitor Center, right?
Right, that's a portion of it, yes. Yes, if the whole thing was funded, it would go from Anstead to the Canyon Rim Visitor Center, yes.
All right. That's it.
Okay.
There was excitement there for a second.
What, did you guys end up, Jenna, did you guys end up getting any data on expanding sewer out Gatewood Road?
We do not have any information on that. I don't know, John or Leslie, has anyone done any work on Gatewood or pre-engineering on that?
Well, I had put, Jenna Belcher had been talking to the Arrowhead Bike Farm owners about it last year, earlier this year, I mean. So I just didn't know if she had made any progress or talked to Region 4 at all about it.
I don't know, but I can find out and get back to you guys today.
And this is New Haven District that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. We appreciate it, Jenna. And
Yeah.
sorry to keep you waiting.
No, that's okay. I think the reason why we prioritize Anstead is because of the pre-engineering that they already had. And so before I started, and I think for quite a while, Mayor Pridemore can probably speak to it, but I think they've had pre-engineering for quite some time. And so just because of the readiness of that project, that's why one of the reasons why we're choosing to prioritize that.
Is this
Thank you,
more-
everyone.
Leslie, you can jump in there on that. I think,
Yeah.
I mean, this project's been around for a long time. And they've had estimates in and out of it for a long time, various ones.
It doesn't say how many customers served, how many new customers to be served is undetermined.
The engineering firm is Done Engineer, and they were counting customers at our last discussion about it. So we don't have an actual number of customers at this point, but they were getting a customer count.
Okay, then Leslie, go ahead and lay it on us.
What are Region 4?
Well, and let's keep on that one for a minute there. Commissioner Luis, I don't know how many residences will be up through there. There won't be that many. I think their driving force for this thing is to open up development up there. You know, there's at least one new development going to happen, and it gets rid of the package plant for Adventures on the Gorge, and it gets rid of a package plant for the RIM Center, which you know, are big albatrosses for those entities up there. And I think that's a lot of driving force. I'm not sure how many customers. There won't be a tremendous amount. There'll be a good many, but it's more of an economic. I think that NRG RDA is more interested in the economic impact.
Well, I think, and I mentioned it, and I emphasized one part of it, Canyon Rim Visitor Center.
Yeah.
There should be some money. I mean, there should be some.
Federal funds.
Thank you, thank you.
Park Service.
That's why I've said it 3 or 4 times, Canyon Rim Visitor Center. Is there any funds that is coming down federal funds for the Canyon Rim Visitor Center that can be used for this project?
That's part of the discussion, but the Park Service, we have no knowledge of them committing anything to that particular facility right now.
See, that's just the only reason I mentioned it 3 or 4 times, Canyon Rim Visitor Center, is because it should be more or less some federal funds involved in this, and instead of us using our money for that Canyon Rim Visitor Center. I ain't got nothing against the visitor center, but I just have to bring that out and say it. I'd like to know how much money's there. I'd like to know if they have any money for it before we commit to anything towards the Canyon Rim Visitor Center.
And we agree with that, Commissioner, that we would hope that they would participate in this. What the Canyon Rim, the reason it's thrown out there in front, it makes the applications for the other programs that can help out stronger, just to say that you're going there, because we're going to need, a big chunk of EDA, big chunk of ARC. You're going to need a lot of help from a lot of federal agencies, and that particular, just making that statement that it's going up there makes those applications stronger. That's primarily the reason. I mean, I'm with you. They should put some skin in the game, but that's why that it's sort of highlighted in trying to get this other money.
Okay.
Leslie, the big sticking point with this, we've got proposed costs, we've got everything else proposed. What about proposed rates? What are the rates going to be like for the citizens?
I can give you the current rate. The town of Anstead currently has a rate of $61.56 for 3,400 gallons of usage.
Okay.
And if you'd like, when we go down through each of these projects, I can give you the rate. Every one of them will be for 3,400 gallons of usage. That way you're basically comparing apples to apples at that point.
Yes, that would be wonderful.
So would you like for me to go forward with the Armstrong project?
I want to ask Mayor Pridemore, are you guys committing ARP funds to any of this?
We are not doing this at this point.
Is that the plan, or do you have, how much did you guys get?
350.
Not very much.
I thought you got more than that.
Not very
Y'all
much.
I thought you got more than that. Wow.
No, because of
We got,
population. So
we got our first portion was $176,000. So the second portion will be equivalency. So, for us to put any money toward ARP at $5 million, it's like spitting in the wind.
Yeah.
okay, yeah, Leslie, or did you want?
No, I was
you
just,
go with her going ahead.
I was remembering his face when he said it was all paid for. He was like,
Well,
wow.
the Canyon Rim Visitor Center should already been paid for, is what I was trying to say.
Okay, all right, so Leslie, go ahead.
I can go down through the bullet points for each of these projects, or I can just take questions if you have any questions. So however you would prefer. I don't want to read it off to you if you've already read it and are familiar with it.
Well, I think we've all read it and spent some time on it.
What are Region 4's priorities based on what you provided us?
John, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll answer that. We don't prioritize projects for the region because we work for the entities involved. I mean, each project is considered, on its own merit for when it goes to the agencies. We don't particularly prioritize projects.
I do got some questions if the other commissioners doesn't. On the Sunday Road.
Do you want to go down them in order, Commissioner, or do you just that way we can go ahead and get the rates on there, or do you just want to jump around?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get the rates on each one.
Let's go ahead.
That would be good.
Yeah.
And then we can go back and ask questions on the specific
Okay.
ones.
Okay, so
Wait.
Armstrong Public Service
Leslie?
District,
Hold on.
Yes.
Leslie.
As you go down them, one of the things that, when I ask you for priorities, we aren't experts in this. So when we talk about an upgrade, I don't know how bad the shape these systems are in. I know some of them are worse than others. I mean, we're looking for bang for the buck recommendations from the experts involved. So if something comes to mind as you're going through them, please bring it to our attention.
okay, thank you. The current rate for deep water area customers of the Armstrong Public Service District, deep water area customers only pay $45.27 for 3,400 gallons of usage. All other customers in the Armstrong PSD area pay $54.58 for 3,400 gallons of usage. Armstrong Public Service District and used to be separate from the Deepwater Public Service District. They purchased they merged those two about probably close to 20 years ago now. This is the reason for the split rate tariff. For Dainese Public Service District, their current rate is $51.37 for 3,400 gallons of usage. Gauley River Public Service District, their current rate is $56.42 for 3,400 gallons usage. Canal Falls Public Service District, $39.56 for 3,400 gallons of usage. Town of Meadowbridge Water, $33.48 for 3,400 gallons. City of Montgomery Sewer, $54.13 for 3,400 gallons. City of Mount Hope Sewer, $55.11 for 3,400 gallons. The next two are New Haven Public Service District. The rate is the same, $57.94 for 3,400 gallons of usage. City of Oak Hill Sewer, $48.62 for 3,400 gallons. It is important to note that former customers of the Arbuckle Public Service District who are now served by the Oak Hill Sanitary Board pay a surcharge of $5 per month plus $2.50 per 1,000 gallons of usage. Page Kincaid Public Service District Sewer, $55.79, 3,400 gallons. Town of Pax Sewer, $32.30 for 3,400 gallons. Town of Pax Water, $60.35, 3,400 gallons. City of Smithers Sewer, $51 for 3,400 gallons. And White Oak Public Service District, $33.71 for 3,400 gallons.
What was the Page Kincaid amount again, please?
$55.79.
Does it tend to cost the customers more when the sewer and water services are bifurcated or less?
There's a separate tariff for sewer and a separate tariff for water. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
when,
there's a separate tariff for each. You're not going to find both of them, at least not in Region 4. John, you may know of somebody somewhere that has everything on the same tariff, but at least in Region 4, your utilities have a separate tariff for water and a separate tariff for sewer.
That's pretty well statewide, and technically with PSC rules, they want these entities completely separate when they're looked at. They're completely separate deals, just as if they were in separate towns almost, but they're supposed to keep their books completely separate.
So when you give us the amounts on places that provide water and sewer versus the places that provide sewer only, how do we, do the math to see the big picture?
Every one of the rates given were based on 3,400 gallons of usage, be it water or wastewater. You really can't compare a sewer provider with a water provider because they operate differently.
So so the numbers we have are not all apples then. I'm just trying to understand, because if I'm looking at, a public service district that has both, and then I'm looking at the ones that just have sewage, I'm trying to understand how much the customers are paying for the full service, regardless of who's providing it.
Well, all you can do there is add the ones that have water and sewer is add the water and sewer together to see what they're paying for water and sewer utility. And that's all.
So was the amount you gave us the total of those two to get combined?
No, and I'm looking at Canal Falls Public Service District. They're a water and a sewer provider. What the rate that I gave you, $39.56 for 3,400 gallons of usage, is for water use only.
Okay, and then how do we get?
Just for comparison purposes, their sewer rate is currently $37.29 for 3,400 gallons of usage.
So you gave us the water usage for the ones that just have water and sewage, and you gave us the sewage usage for the ones that just have sewage.
No, not necessarily. Basically, what I did is when I went down through these projects, each project is identified as to whether it's a water project or a wastewater project. So if it was a water project, I gave you the current rates for their water service. If it was a wastewater project, I gave you the current rate for their wastewater service. If you'd like, we can provide a listing of all water utilities, as well as a listing of all wastewater utilities and their current rate, if you'd like to see it that way.
I just was trying to understand what numbers you were giving us. Because, I mean, if we're looking at those numbers, don't we want to see the big picture?
Yeah, Leslie, if you could break that out and send it to us for each one, a breakdown of water and sewage, so that there's not a loss of where we're at or a lot of questions. I think it would save us some time. Is that what you're? Yeah.
I'm just saying, if we're looking at the rates to the customers, we want to look at the big picture rates, right? Not just half of what they're paying for water and sewage, or a portion of what they're paying with water and sewage.
Of course, a lot of your sewer bills are based off their water bills anyway. So.
Something else that may be very beneficial for you to look at would be what percentage each utility's rate is to their median household income of the area. We'll include that as well.
That sounds great. Gives us a
And
better idea.
Leslie isn't, I mean, basically all the ones that are just sewer alone, West Virginia American is the water provider, correct? So that rate would just be whatever that is.
West Virginia American Water is in Ansted, Montgomery. Of course, New Haven has a public-private partnership with West Virginia American. West Virginia American also provides water for the city of Oak Hill, water service for Page Kincaid Public Service District, water service for White Oak Public Service District, the city of Smithers. Those all have water service provided by West Virginia American Water.
And there is no sewer in Daynese.
There is not.
That's okay.
As Jenna from Region 4, Belcher, just sent us the
From
Thrasher Report, and she is going, Ruth is going to print it out for us. It's 8 pages. It just came across on our emails.
What is it?
The Thrasher Report on what it's going to take to get everybody with water.
Who's
Jenna
Thrasher?
Belcher.
No, who is Thrasher? I know who Jenna
Thrasher
Belcher
is
is.
an engineering firm that they had hired for us to.
Is that part of the comp plan effort? Okay.
So she is going to print that out
I
for
don't
us.
see the maps.
No, there's no maps.
And then I gotta read all this.
And we're not figuring
Yes,
out come
you
with
gotta-
I'm a
maps.
map
Better
person.
look at maps.
I even copied maps off the other this morning.
Yes, you did. Thank you. I appreciate that, by the way.
And she's ready to put them up on the screen for you.
So we're going to take a little break in case someone needs to go to the powder room. And then we'll be right back.
You guys powder your noses. Just kidding.
Okay.
The new guy in Raleigh, he lives out by,
Duckworth.
he lives out in, by Beaver Lake, Beaver Dam.
I knew him before because he was a trooper. I had a case with him, a couple cases with
It's
him.
all decorated for Christmas. He's been out riding around checking out Christmas lights at night time. So.
We're on the.
Just wanna let you know.
All right, we're back.
Thank God you have that gavel.
Gavel people. Okay, Leslie, going back to you. Are you there?
I'm here, ready for your question.
There isn't a question. We were just going back to you.
Wait,
Wait there, maybe there is a question. Commissioner Taylor working on one.
well, I mean, what I need to know or understand about this list of projects is, you know, where would we get the most bang for our buck? Which ones are the most critical? Which ones do you think could be completed in a, you know, efficient manner? I mean, I agree with NRG RDA that the Ansted sewer project is a great one to lead with because it is so well fleshed out. When we're asking, trying to justify something, we're not just giving it a wag. We actually have hard numbers and research to go with what we're proposing. But we have all these other people, you know, all these other PSDs and things that you mentioned in your document test, which I really appreciated, by the way. It was simple to read and understand. But now I want to understand, like, you know, which things are more critical than others. Like, we need help prioritizing these.
Well, can I speak up, Leslie?
Certainly.
I'm gonna tell you what, the ones that are important to me, and I want to ask you a couple of questions. Is the New Haven Public, let's see here, Sunday Road. Now, I know that there's project 18 and 19. Is that correct? I'm just going by what I've read in the past.
Yeah, and they're listed on here. The Sunday Road Confluence Area Project is contract 18, and the Arrowwood Dotson Ridge project is contract 19, both
Okay.
of which are listed on your document.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I didn't see 18 or 19. I just knew about 18 or 19. What I understand is one of them is funded from what I understand. Is that correct, or am I incorrect?
Both of the projects have funding from, of course, West Virginia American Water has made a commitment to those as they're required to do so. The Fayette County Commission loaned New Haven PSD $50,000 on the contract 19, the Arrowwood Dotson Ridge, Lower Dotson Ridge project. We also have soft commitments from the Drinking Water Treatment Revolving Fund for both of those. And the contract 19 project has a funding recommendation for IJDC funds.
Okay, so is this the funding that's needed after all them resources has been absorbed?
I think the reason that Chairman Hayes was looking for funding for these one or both of these projects is that the customers, in order for this project to move forward, the customers are going to have a surcharge, which is going to, once both of these projects are complete, it's going to total somewhere in the neighborhood of their regular bill plus an additional roughly $20 per customer as a surcharge. And I think he's looking for additional funding to offset the loan dollars that they're having to borrow, so that surcharge won't be as exorbitant.
Okay, I got another question for you after that one. What is the amount of the loan to lessen, to make the $20 surcharge less per person to $10? What's the total loan that they have to pay the $20 for? How much is it?
Give me just a second to look between the two projects.
Okay, and while you're looking, you didn't answer the question whether these, is this the funding that's needed after the private and all the other grants and stuff? Or is this the funding needed either before or after the other funding? This is included or not included?
The funding for contract 19, and I'll go down through this, and all of these funds are either have a soft commitment or have been committed. Of course, so contract 19 is the Arrowwood, Dotson Ridge, Lower Dotson Ridge, South Miller, Ramsey, Halver, Cane Branch project.
Okay.
The county commission loaned New Haven PSD $50,000. That is to be paid back once the permanent funding is in place.
Mm-hmm.
The project also has a grant, a committed grant from the Army Corps of Engineers in the amount of $925,000. That's a Section 340 grant that Army Corps offers to different projects every year. The PSD committed $158,342 of funds that they had from previous water or the Winona sewer project. That $158,342 was residual contribution from West Virginia American Water from previous projects. The project also received $160,508 in drinking water treatment revolving fund design loan principal forgiveness, meaning they don't have to pay that back. West Virginia American Water's contribution to the project is approximately $287,832. The project will also receive principal forgiveness loan from the Drinking Water Treatment Revolving Fund in the amount of $337,600. A District 3 grant from the West Virginia Infrastructure and Jobs Development Council of $500,000. And here's your big ticket item. A drinking water treatment revolving fund, $4 million. This is a loan, I'm sorry, $4,687,731.
That's the figure that I guess I was looking for. That they'll have to pay a $20 surcharge. Is that correct?
That now the $20 surcharge is between both projects. So we'll move on to the funding for the contract 18 project, which is Sunday Road confluence area.
Okay.
And let's see here. So for the Sunday Road confluence area, the New Haven PSD has committed funding from residual funding from previous projects in the amount of $52,222. They received a design loan from Drinking Water Treatment Revolving Fund. It was principal forgiveness, so it doesn't have to be paid back, $163,500. A West Virginia American Water contribution of $236,280. Drinking Water Treatment Revolving Fund principal forgiveness loan, $376,942. And again, the big ticket item on this one is the Drinking Water Treatment Revolving Fund loan of $3,791,321.
Okay, so that's the figures that that I've asked about the $3,791,321 and the $4,687,731 is what's going to cause the customer to pay $20 extra as a surcharge per month, correct?
Yeah, and it's roughly $20. I would have to check with the accountant to get the exact dollar amount, but it was roughly $20.
Okay, so after all these figures, all this money is divvied up, still what's left to finance the project, total project cost on the Sunday Road is $4,620,265. And then on the Arrow, I'm just going to say Arrow instead of saying anything else, it's $7,048,013. Is that correct?
That 7 million that you just cited, that's the total project cost.
That's for both of them.
Yes,
No, it is not for both of them.
it's not for both.
That funding, if you add it up, comes close to that, so I think it's funded.
I think Commissioner, what you're getting at is the two loan amounts of 4 million and some change and 3 million and some change.
Yeah.
That's driving the surcharge.
That is
And
driving this.
if you put some of your money in the game, you can reduce those loans to where that surcharge can come down some.
Right.
Now, some accountant would have to, their accountant would have to do the magic on that, because that, once you reduce those bonds, there's various things they have to take into account, but that's what you're looking, whenever you put money into it, you would reduce those loans and ultimately reduce that surcharge.
Other than that, the projects are funded. The only thing that the request basically is if the county commission can come up with some money to make the surcharge less.
Correct. They're basically funded. It's just you can reduce the impact on the rates if you invest in them.
And the only reason I was asking because it doesn't say funded. The other one up here, and I thought that one or both of them was funded, but I wasn't for sure. Okay. Oh, I think you had something.
Well, you said what I was thinking, like, are there others on here that are funded? Because I thought none of these were funded when I read it. So I thought these were projects that had no funding attached to them and where funds might be allocated. And further, I'd also like to know for each project, what types of grants and funding sources are available for them outside of the ARP funding.
Everything she listed there, probably.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them.
The Armstrong project has committed funds, as noted on there. The Armstrong project does have committed funds. There is concern that given the continuing increases in materials, that when we're able to put this project out for bid, that the bids will come in excess of the committed funds. So that's why that one was listed on there.
I got one other one to ask about it. The Meta Bridge. 145 new customers. You've got it on here. So is the project funded? What is there any request on that or anything that we should know about? I mean, is it funded, the $3,800,000 that's left over? Project cost?
The total project cost is the total cost of the project. That's not left over. That is what the project would actually cost per the engineer's estimate. There is no funding currently committed to that project.
None at all.
Hey, Leslie,
Yes.
Armstrong has their funding in place. Page Kincaid has theirs. Canal Falls, White Oak, and is there any others currently running?
Canal Falls Water Project does not currently have any funding in place.
Okay,
The White Oak project that's listed on here is not the current White Oak project. It's their next project. There are no funds currently committed to that project either.
Okay, what about their current project?
Their current project is fully funded and currently under construction.
Good. Page Kincaid is funded up to 80%.
I'll double check Paige Kincaid's funding and update this list and send it to you.
Okay.
So the Meta Bridge is not, doesn't have any funding at all, any funding at all.
The Meta Bridge project does not have any funding.
Okay. And those are three I had questions about.
Okay.
So that $20 surcharge would run that bill from $57 to $77. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you find out the amount of offset we would have to provide to mitigate that?
We can contact New Haven PSD's accountant and ask them.
And give us, if you would, give us a variety, like, I think it's about close to $8 million. The loan together is $8 million, is that correct?
We'll have to look at them separately though. So what we'll have to do is put a request to the accountant because they're two separate projects. So we'll have to put the request into the accountant, how much on one project and how much on the other to reduce the surcharge.
Well, let's do this. Let's give him some work. Let's go, if you don't mind for me, I don't know how the other commissioners, it's $1 million. Give us a figure of $1 million less on each project down to the 3,791,321. Have them give us the figures down for each million. If we gave $1 million, I'm just using an example. And then what the surcharge would be for 2,791,000, and then the surcharge would be for 1,791,000, and then a surcharge for 791,000, and then do the 4,687,731. Take $1 million off each one of them and give us a figure of what the surcharge would be if we gave $1 million to lower that in each
$1 million to each of the New Haven projects.
Yeah, in other words, I want to figure on what the customer will cost if that loan goes from $3,791,000 to $2,791,000. And then I want to figure what the surcharge would be if we gave $2 million and it cuts that loan down to $1,791,000. And then I want another figure is that if we gave $3 million to that project and there was a loan for only $791,000. Does that make any sense?
And then you want to do the same thing for the other.
And then I want to do the same thing to the others. I want to see what the surcharge is every time we give $1 million on against the loan for each project.
Okay. And is a $3 million grant to each project realistic?
I just want to see the figures.
Then I'm just going to caution you that all the work that the accountant does gets charged to the project. And that means
I thought, they're accounting. I mean, okay, okay. Let me read every.
He's used to Ruth giving him instant answers.
Yeah, I'm used to emailing Ruth, texting Ruth, call Ruth, come over and aggravate her.
Yeah.
So maybe it should.
It wouldn't take, it wouldn't take too much to figure it out if he has the amortization and all that other crap. But I tell you what, I guess 1.5 million on each one of them. I don't know how the other commissioners feel about it, but I mean, I was just trying to get an idea of every $1 million, how much less the customer would pay on a surcharge.
Okay,
So,
well, we just wanted to try to keep it realistic that way, because the accountant, of course, bills his time to the project, which could, quickly exceed
She'll
the,
increase it and change our numbers.
if you give me the amortization schedule and everything, I'll figure it out for you. Give me the rates and everything, I can figure it out myself. But anyway, go ahead. Anything else, Commissioner?
we'll contact the accountant and ask them to what a $1 million grant, a $1.5 million grant from the commission on each project for a total of $3 million would do to the surcharge.
Okay, is that okay, Commissioner?
Yeah, that's fine. One thing that we need to keep in mind is that we're the committee to grant the money from the state is going to be meeting on the 5th, 6th, and 7th. And in turn, we may get additional funding from the state for some of these projects. I actually feel that they'll feel better about projects that's going to add new customers and get areas that are not serviced, like down to Route 19, which I've been talking about now for 3 years. So, yeah, and we need to get that going. Plus, they're going to be looking at non-municipality areas too. But those are just some things that I think we need to keep in mind as we make our list and send to our people. The steering committee will be the ones that will be moving suggestions, and then the entire body would vote.
Do we know anything about what restrictions are on those funds? Ruth, have you been following that at all?
It's, all I know is it's infrastructure. And the legislature is going to designate it. They just said, send your priorities, basically.
But I'm just wondering if they're making it for people who don't have service at all. I mean, you know how they do, like sometimes it'll be for previously unserved people, sometimes it'll be for upgrades, sometimes, you know,
I
it may
feel like
have.
it's across the board. I did read where they want to replace lead pipes.
Yeah.
So that would be upgrades, but.
And that's definitely the Armstrong area, because they had pipes that were almost 40 foot long. So those originally came in on a tractor trailer and flipped over the side because they no longer make 40 foot long pipes.
So what
Probably
we're
a
gonna do,
train.
we're gonna write a letter today and ask them where we want.
No, we're just going to give them our priority list.
I think we ought to do it in the form of a
I
letter.
think we should too.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Leslie, John, we will be in contact because I know we're going to have more questions. And I've been talking back and forth with Jenna Belcher, and she signed the contract on the paperwork that you have from Thrasher. And she said it is indicated that 150 days to get the information back to get everyone in the county sewer and water that doesn't have it currently. And we should have that by the 1st of April. So
This looks like it's, this looks like it's limited. I thought this was limited to wastewater and not water.
Just water and wastewater. but-
yeah,
Is it?
water, wastewater. So we have a lot of things to consider, but we thank you very much for your input and joining us today. Any closing remarks, either one of you and Commissioner?
I would like to chime in here. I mean, we were asked to give you what we had on the books just for the total projects. We didn't realize you were going to want some sort of breakdown on these things. Most of these projects have funding packages with them that are fairly easy to give you the funding package. When you get that funding package, you can look at the loan amounts, and that's where you can help out, okay, a lot of times. And we can provide that. And then the other thing is the new customer situation. Commissioner Taylor, you're exactly right. Most of the time, they look at new customers and so forth favorably. but there has been no guidance on this money put in play. So we can't assume that, but that's generally what happens. And therefore, we can provide that type of information. You have the rates. You can compare rates. A lot of times when you're ranking things, you go cost per customer for whatever the total bill, whatever the total amount is, you divide that number of customers for a system and put it in there. And a lot of times those costs per customers are pretty high. But then it becomes somewhat of a political problem, because if you have customers somewhere that don't have water, do you rank them higher than the ones that, the cost per customer to fix their system, which if it fails, they don't have water. So there's a lot of political wrangling and different ways to look at it. And a good example of one of the issues you need to be aware of, the one at Gauley River PSD, that particular line that they need to replace is basically reached its life cycle, and it's what serves the Mount Olive prison. So that's those type things way in there. So we'll do what we can to help you prioritize these, but we really didn't realize you wanted more information. We thought you wanted just the basics of what the projects were, because we just got the request last week.
Well, in all fairness, we didn't give you much time because we didn't have much time either. We just learned that these decisions were going to be made and slapped this meeting on and just under the wire for our notice requirements. But it's completely understandable, Commissioner. We understand that that's what happened. We knew that, we were aware you were waiting on your comprehensive plan to make some of these decisions. And that's one reason we haven't really been out front and given, this type of information yet, until you had an idea from your comprehensive plan. But those funding packages you mentioned per project that you have here, are those something that you can pull together relatively quickly? Or is
we have those. We have those pretty easily. And
I feel like, I'm addressing my colleagues now, I feel like the more data we have to provide our legislators down there for next week with those funding packages or whatever, the better, because then they'll have all the information and the dollar amounts right there with them and say, these things have already been fleshed out. These are the things that, that are going on in the county that need to be funded. And
so that's basically just about what I was going to say. In the letter, I was going to say, I was going to put the Bridge and the Sunday Road and Arrow Road for water. I was wanting the unserved customers ASAP as number one.
mm-hmm.
Then I was going to go to the sewer, and I was going to ask, what everybody thinks about sending the map and the Thrasher study.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't read it yet, though.
Well, it's not a study.
It's not a study, it's actually the agreement.
Oh, okay.
It's an agreement. It's a funding for a study.
Oh, okay.
And it's nominal compared to
Yeah. Well, I was
everything
going
we
to actually
discussed
show
here.
what we have unserved. On this map right here,
Yeah.
it actually shows what we have unserved with even sewer.
Yeah, and does the New Haven, John and Leslie, does the New Haven information on this sheet you guys gave us, does it include the people who don't have water at all because the creeks have dried up over there?
The projects listed are only for the projects for those areas, the Sunday Road and Confluence area, and then the other areas that are listed.
But you guys were present for the meeting, weren't you, when the New Haven PSD came in and told us, and we received, I know, emails and stuff where there are people who don't have water at all, like Commissioner Luisa is talking about. Do those projects include extending service to those people or not?
No, it does not. The extension areas are simply the areas that are listed. The New Haven Public Service District water extension to Sunday Road and Confluence. That's the only areas that are included in that project. And then the next one underneath that is those areas listed. So these two projects are not all inclusive of the currently unserved areas of New Haven Public Service District.
So, but it does have some, I see. So
It does have some, but it's not all inclusive.
it's almost 140
How hard would it be,
households.
how hard would it be to get the rest of that?
New Haven PSD should know. I mean, they came in and pitched it to us. We just didn't have all the numbers, specific numbers.
Get a call with Kenny.
Yeah, sure.
I'm the assistant project manager for New Haven Contract 18 I'll soon be the project manager. Jeremiah's from the mentioned it. For now, I'm an assistant project manager. I thought we made a map and gave it to Kenny.
Yep.
He was gonna get you,
Yep.
show the unserved.
Yep.
I think that map's available already.
In
actually.
fact, I think he emailed it to me, and I was wondering if it,
If you need to print that off on a big sheet, you can bring it to you, I can do that. But yeah, so that map is available.
Maybe
I would contemplate done that.
I wondered if it had the, all the other unserved on it or not.
I think that's what the map was preparing. I didn't do that map on the assistance did. I think he did that. Showing all the unserved and the served.
I asked him about that, but I didn't know whether it had it on there or not.
That's what they try to give you, I think, so. And like I said, you need a hard copy, if you, I don't know if you have a big print or not, we got a big plotter, we can make a big copy of it. Give you a copy.
Well, the assessor's office has that.
Yeah, I can send it, you just email it to him when you have it in just a
Oh,
minute.
okay.
The
Cool.
Metro News article where they talked about this funding, it says there is $487 million for water projects. And this is going to be allocated over a 5-year period, so it's not immediate. Like there's $6 billion, but a lot of it's going to bridges. And then the water, public transit, 100 million for broadband,
Wait,
airports,
100 million for broadband. How much for public transit?
190.
That's another deficit we have here.
Yeah.
Well, they're talking about, it looks like they're focusing a lot on the Eastern Panhandle.
Of course they are, where they don't need all that. I was just up there over Thanksgiving.
Another thing that's asking about is, funds for what the guidelines on the funds. Did you go to the Senator Mansion put on?
Mm-mm.
He did a couple of weeks. I went to that and I got some documents his people passed out that kind of addresses that. If you want, I'll email, give me your email address, I'll send those to you.
Okay.
That would be awesome.
Says what's the priority, and what you can achieve for.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a catch, so I always want to know what the catch is before we start talking, before we send them a bunch of things and they say, well, 80% of what you sent us, we can't spend it on,
I don't know.
We appreciate your patience. We have another meeting to get on at noon, so if we could have 5 minutes, it'd be great to prepare for that.
All
right. We appreciate you're being patient with what we had to offer, and hopefully we can help work through this.
It was really informative. Could you guys get us those funding packages you mentioned for these projects that aren't already funded?
Yeah,
listed?
we can do that, and Wood Leslie can answer better than me, but you do that and then star what's not funded. And also, again, I probably highlight the loans, because the loans are what you can help out with a good bit. So
something that we can give, I want us to provide our legislators as comprehensive a package as possible from us to show that, we put some thought into this. I think it'll make us stand out because we have scrambled to try to get some stuff together. Not compared to necessarily some of the counties that have been on some of this stuff a lot longer, but jumping in like we are, we have, an idea. We have documents and data to back up our requests, and that's what I think they need down there, and we can provide the priorities, but as much data as you can give us in as efficient a form as possible would be really helpful. Like if we could provide some kind of summary to them and then provide like supporting documentation for the summary, I think that would be the best way, like an executive summary and then you know, have supporting documentation to show that it's been fleshed out and not just, you know, just a wag, like me guessing, like, oh, well, this is gonna cost, you know, $1 million.
Well, these numbers have all been generated from engineers with their public or their preliminary engineering. So it's been someone, you know, all the projects we have been flushed out as far as those.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, I think that will stand out compared to if we came in here and just guessed based on prior projects about things. If we showed them like, no, these are actual numbers that, you know, engineers have come up with and not just the 3 commissioners up here guessing. I think that'll help. But if we had some kind of like a chart or some kind of just easy summary of, you know, for our legislators to look at and argue, but then knowing that they have, you know, in soft copy, for example, the project or the funding packages to back up all of the numbers that they have in the summary, I think that would help them argue well on our behalf to try to get some of those allocations sent this way. I mean,
would you like a format different than what was provided?
I think it would be helpful to having been an executive at that level before. I think if we had like a chart that had the PSDs listed and then, you know, kind of a summary of the project and then the dollars where they could at one glance kind of look at the bulk of what we have and then have something like this as the next level down and then the funding packages, links to them or documents, you know, if we could get those in soft copy that we could provide them for backup, if they want to print them or not is up to them. But I think something like that would help them, you know, dig deeper to figure out how to argue these things. Who's representing us on the steering committee? Do you know? Okay. I wish you were here.
Anyway.
Hey, buddy, what's your email address? You know, I can find.
Does that make sense, Leslie?
I don't know that I'm necessarily getting the chart idea, but I'll give it some thought and try to put something together in addition to what you already have with some additional information on. What I want to avoid with the chart is, you know, I want everyone to understand that the projects are all different. And part of me feels like with a chart, they may lump them all together. But once I get something put together, it may look different on paper than what it does in my head.
We have to simplify it for them. I mean, you can't, when you're thinking 55 counties and, you know, 10 legislators on that steering committee, and each county provides a 4-page document. I mean, I feel like we need to give them some kind of summary with priorities. I mean, we can shift, if we have a chart that we can edit, we can shift those around a little bit, but as far as, you know, getting the data down for them, they're not going to care about the little specific things. Those are things we need to consider when we set the priorities. And then we need to put them where they can take a look at them and find backup data, in my view. But relevant data that isn't on here to me is there funding already in place? Is there potential grant funding? Like where can we apply the dollars? If they have, like what Ruth said, 487 million to go to water allocated over 5 years, like how can we make a pitch for some of that money for ourselves? We've discussed broadband, but there's very little relatively allocated for broadband. So it sounds like the list you put together is the one we ought to be working from for the most part for the funding that we're talking about right now. All of this data is going to serve us still, as will the comp plan, in allocating our ARP funds and any other funds we might have. But as far as this meeting, the impetus for next week, it sounds like the water, you know, these projects that you provided us are really the ones where the most money is going to be available.
So basically what I did is we've been talking over the last several minutes, and I'm going to be quick because John and I do have another meeting that started a minute ago. I went down through here and listed the median household income, the rates for both water and wastewater for each entity. the median house, the percent of median household income for the rates. If it was a project that has funding, I've listed their current funding sources, whether it's loan or grant. If the project does not have any committed funds, then I have listed that as well.
Okay.
And then the other thing that I was going to go back through and do is on the projects that have funding, I was going to go back in and list what their post-project rate will be. Because of course your post-project rates aren't effective until substantial completion of the project.
That's a great idea.
So the projects that don't have committed funding won't have that.
And I think the commissioners were asking about the customers, how many customers are involved.
The number of customers is already listed on that sheet.
She has them on here.
So I'll get that information to you. And if you take a look, I'll try to get it to you this afternoon because I'm just about finished with it. All I need to put in there is post-project rates on the ones. If you see something that you would, or if you don't see something that you would like to see, just let me know. I can probably add it pretty quickly.
Leslie, on project, or David, either one, on project 18 or 19, does that service every possible customer in that area that does not have water? Or is it leaving people at the end of the road?
We have user agreements. I'd have to take a look at those user agreements. To tell you if it's every customer, I don't think every potential customer has signed up. I know there's an area in contract 19 that may be a deductive alternate. So if there's not enough money in the project, the lower Dotson area with either 4 or 8 customers will be removed from the project. But David may be able to speak to that better than I am.
We do have people way out there.
Yeah, what I remember.
Save money, not put a long line. Now, I will say like on Whispering Pines, there's 4 or 5 customers out there. We're seeking a critical needs grant for that to that ABC. So those people are entirely if that's successful.
Are they the ones that have no source of water whatsoever? Those are the ones that are killing me, that they have, like, their creek bed has dried up and they have no source of water. They don't have well, they have nothing.
I think that may be the ones that are in worse shape, the ones we call Whispering Pines.
Because I mean, that's untenable. I mean, those. Right. So that, I mean, those are, to me, the top priority, people who have no access to water whatsoever. And then the ones who, you know, then we need to run, well, the clean water, and then the ones we need to run, you know, water to eventually. But if they have functioning wells, you know, that have clean water, that's better than what some of those people have out there that have nothing at all. That's just, you know, areas where they have to pay to truck their water in. That's just crazy to me.
Several people could flush their commodes, wash the car with the well water if you can't.
Right. Yeah. My dad lived in a place like that. Yeah. He couldn't drink it. Yeah. He could shower in it and wash clothes and stuff, but he couldn't drink. Yep.
We appreciate your time. We're going to have to jump off of here. If you see anything else you need, just let us know.
Thank you for your time.
No problem.
Thanks.
Have a
See you,
great day.
everybody.
Thank you.
I have matches over that. I just can't get it pulled up. I don't know why.
Send it to me and let me see if my computer.
I can't.
Oh, you can't find
I
it.
got the bank, but I can get it sent.
Yeah, send it. We'll send it.
Send it tomorrow office. You will send it to her.
Yes, it's Ruth, and she can even have Jamie. Yeah, he's here. He must be back. Oh,
I think that will, back to what it will be PDF format. Print large PDF.
yeah, they were good maps. I mean, I looked at them on my. They were good maps. showed the road, tells the roads and everything. It was, very impressive. Did you say your firm done that work?
Yes.
Very impressive.
And I'm not up to speed like I want to be on this project, but I'm getting into this.
Is this you up here?
Yes.
Okay. Get magic things up here and I never know where they
Well, you were in another little bit of tree and stuff.
come from.
So, John, on the agenda, I have a couple of questions if I may.
Okay.
One of the things I was going to do for you all, we call the contract 20, the next unserved group of people for New Haven, we call it contract 20. It's not even started yet, but I was going to ask for $40,000 for a preliminary engineering report to get that project going. Now, I always understood though I couldn't do it like the conference plan was done, so I can't really ask y'all for that now, can I?
Well, also, when Commissioner Brenneman was referring to this Thrasher report,
Yeah.
Thrasher has made a proposal to the NRG RDA, which is our Economic Development Authority, to do a complete study of the county for water and sewage. And,
Water and sewer?
I thought that's what you guys told me. I thought it was
just
sewer.
I thought it was just sewer.
Well, that's what I thought too. And then you said,
Yeah, I thought you said water was
Can you say
included,
that?
Tom.
I think you did.
I thought it
But
was just sewer.
do you want to take a look at it?
I love it.
Yeah, you take a look at my copy.
It's a sewer study.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. And then, but
Did I say water and sewer?
Yeah.
when I said I thought it was just sewer, but you've been knee deep in it. So I thought you probably
Well,
knew better.
I can't even get that map to pull up.
Wait for that, a sewer project, and you've been deep in it.
Yeah. That's
That's pretty good with it.
that's being a politician. That's
That's good.
presumed. So on Google Maps, when you were asking about the telecommunications infrastructure, the longest route from Meadow Bridge to Hyco Exxon is 32 miles of road, according to Google Maps. And that was like I think I did the math, like 2.5 million.
2.5 million.
Mhm. On that, rounding up to 80,000 fleecing, worth of fleecing. Yeah, they're not gonna go with the low number.
Austin, are you on the call?
No.
He's not? Well, he usually is.
My computer won't go to sleep if I don't plug it in.
Yeah, I forgot that. What'd you get? How many miles did you get from Meadow Bridge to 19?
32 for the longest route
Mm-hmm.
on Google Maps. So we're looking at, we hope, worst case scenario with maximum level of government fleecing and maximum distance.
Yeah.
So I can use that in
25 is
Government.
about 31, 41, 60.
Begging for our
19.
tax dollars back.
FYI, I worked for this time last year.
Did you?
Did work for Thrasher and I moved over. Absolutely. But no, the map that we provided to Tom is kind of that for water. It's not as detailed as that, but he's kind of got a map that shows that.
Yeah, I mean, I have a map.
Same thing as that, yeah.
So then we would have the,
Yeah, I have a
Water
map.
and sewer.
Yeah, gosh. I forwarded it to my.
Hey,
another
I need
email.
you to call in on the Zoom line. Couple questions. All right, thanks.
You send me everything else, you did not send me that.
I
Yeah,
cannot believe that.
okay.
Maybe I haven't sent it
I'll
to
send it
my other
to you.
email.
All right,
I
bye.
have a new email from my,
Hey, what's our Zoom information so I can send it to Austin?
I'll
it's
send
from-
you.
574-1200.
I have a new email from my desktop, and maybe I just had him send it there.
And is there a password?
It ain't me, it's her.
Where did these
That's the
documents come
calling
from?
telephone.
That's what I had heard, give you. The
That's
code,
from that memo, the.
Yeah. comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
Oh, the House Hill Levine people came up with.
And the only thing that changed is
Oh, yeah, it is.
his Page Kincaid
I wondered how you had.
is now in the
her
record
name.
of their water.
Speaking of which, who did they wire that money to? Because it wasn't us.
I will find out.
I feel like we need to definitely need to equip.
Yeah, put it up on screen.
Is Gabe here today?
He is.
Yeah, look, I'm
Will
gonna
you
have her put
text
this
him and
on,
ask him to come down, please?
I'm gonna have her put this on the screen.
And
so
talk to
everybody
both
can
of
see
you.
it.
He's on there.
Yeah, I want him to come down here then, because they're both here in person, so I can talk to them.
There we go. There you go, Miss Taylor.
I gotta put my glasses on. But there's a key to that map too, right? So.
Watch for Austin calling into that number.
I will, it'll make a noise.
Oh, this is on the existing conditions thing. I see. Sewer.
See, look at the sewer, how much sewer is actually there compared to the water. Is that real, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
His last four is 58. Okay. He's just gonna dial it, call the number when he's on.
We have to go to Zoom.
Oh. He should know that.
Sure he has his Zoom out.
So we need to put a letter there today. If they're meeting,
Yes, you might better start writing.
yeah, if they're meeting seventh, eighth, if they're meeting seventh, eighth, and ninth, we need to have a reminder letter today. Right?
Right.
We need to have a letter today.
Yeah, we do, and a chart, which I'll probably put together, but so I feel like we might need the weekend to put some of this together and give it to them Monday, like us meet at like 8 or something Monday morning by Zoom and approve the
That'd be
letter.
fine.
Do the meetings start Sunday though?
He doesn't think that they're gonna meet on Sunday. He thinks it's gonna be on Monday, Tuesday. That they'll be doing a lot of the meeting.
Well, I know sometimes they do it Sunday. See them do it.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
not for the steering committee, because he has something else on Sunday.
So, yeah, I'd like to have an idea from him of what he needs.
Hey,
Did you say Amy? Abby?
oh, Abby, I'm sorry.
Same thing.
Yeah, it starts with an A.
Same thing.
At least I didn't tell you I was gonna gap you, okay?
Okay, could be worse. Thanks for coming down. We're just trying to figure out how to put all this together. I know you've been listening to everything. Did you guys get a copy of this existing conditions memo from the House Hill Levine? We get that. I noticed that it doesn't include telecommunications.
Oh, there's one for telecommunications.
Is there?
No, I think I was gonna ask her that, she had to go. No, there's not. You mean what's served and not served?
Mhm.
Hold on,
Well, of course, we know the FCC data is not accurate.
right here. This is, but still, this isn't how I wanted it.
No, that doesn't give us the true areas.
Yeah, this is the FCC data, which we
Yeah.
know is not accurate.
It's not,
Did they do transportation?
yeah, let's do it. They got transportation, they've got, see, but the problem is with broadband is they won't tell you where everything's at.
I wonder if that's like trade
If they don't want everybody to know.
competition and.
Everybody know what they have, don't have.
John Austin's on.
Okay.
Sweet.
Hey, Austin.
Hey,
Okay, good. You even got that thing done.
Hey, Austin, do you know anything about the restrictions on the funding that you guys are going to be allocating?
so I think I haven't received anything yet, but I believe that they will be giving us a list of those restrictions at our meeting on Tuesday.
So what's the full scope of what you're meeting on this week? Are you doing the allocations or are you just discussing things like that?
I think part of it is discussing the restrictions, but I think also there have been some projects submitted. And I think we're going to talk about how we want to prioritize the projects.
So you have projects submitted already from other counties?
There have been some things submitted as far as I know. I haven't seen those things yet. They're supposed to send them to us.
What do you think would help you represent us or argue for funding for Fayette? We have some data accumulated already, like as part of our comp plan, we have a map of well, Ruth, first let me start with Ruth was telling us how much money was for water and that you'd have to allocate over 5 years, and then 100 million for broadband, 190 million for public transit. So we have that said, with the majority of the funding available being for water, we have a map from our comp plan that's been put together for the county of areas that are served with water and sewer, served with water only, served with sewer only. We have people who don't have water at all, who have to truck it in. We have a list of projects that Region 4 gave us that have been scoped by engineers and have dollar amounts attached to them. And then we have a very well-documented project for Anstead that includes expansion over to Canyon Rim Visitor Center and even out to Hyco.
Okay.
That we have hard data to back all of that stuff up. So I'm just wondering, like, what can we give you to help you, represent us or to make a good case for funding for Fayette County projects?
So the first thing that I would like to have is, obviously a list of the projects, but if you guys could prioritize those for me, like ones that you think this is what we need now, this is something that we can do later down the road. I want, if we have to pick and choose, I hope we don't, but if we do, I want to be able to say, okay, we need to do these projects first, and these we can wait a little bit longer on. But honestly, if you can just give me a brief description and an overview of what all the project entails and why this project is important, I think we should be set.
So I had asked for Region 4 they have these funding packages for all these projects. I'm trying to find my email on it now so I can forward it to you that Region 4 sent us. But, and it has some good data on it already. Oh, you have it already.
Okay.
So it it's basically just the sewage projects and water projects for the PSDs in the county.
Okay, on that, on those projects, are those just listed in any order, or are they prioritized?
They're not prioritized yet.
Okay.
That's something that we're going to try to do, I think, here in a minute. But
Okay.
and a couple of them, it doesn't show on there, we learned have been funded. Armstrong Creek had been funded, and the 2 New Haven projects have been funded along
Okay.
with. So yeah, Page Kincaid was partially funded for sewer, not water.
Well,
Yeah, West Virginia American Water had it, so Page and Kincaid was already funded.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, as long as I can get a prioritized list with a little bit of, just a little description of the projects, I should be good to go.
What have been the priorities at the state level? Like, is it getting service to people who don't have it, or is it economic development? Or, I mean, which are going to be more persuasive to the state for these funds when we request?
So we've had a few conversations about this, and I know there's been a lot of talk about water and sewer and getting these water and sewer lines extended out to people that don't have it. I think everybody just about can get behind that. There's been some talk about broadband expansion. There's been talk about we're getting a lot of money for roads and bridges. So, and one thing just to put on the radar of the commission is I've been talking with the Department of Highways about the bridge in Boonesboro. And that's something that I want to try to push across the line with this money, because if there's something, whatever needs to be done, we just need to get it done and back open. But anyway, that was a little side note for you three.
So is the Boonesboro bridge more important to you than the water? And I just want to ask that because you talked about that's priority for you.
There's different set of funding.
Is there a different set of funding? I thought it was the same.
So there is the bill. The bill sets out a certain amount for roads, certain amount for bridges, certain amount for water and sewer, broadband. Where we have different pots of money for all those different things.
Okay. So it doesn't matter. It won't matter what category it falls in on what a lot of money it will get. Okay. Okay, I understand.
Correct. Yeah.
So your bridge priority is Boonesboro?
That's the one that I've had the most complaints about.
Do you think the committee would allocate funding for studies alone, or is it seeking projects that have already been researched and we know, what it's going to cost to realize those projects?
I would imagine that they would probably be more likely to fund projects where most of the research and studies have already been done.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like in the cases where they've already got all this engineering work done, I figure we would, if they had something they could pull the trigger on and say, okay, well, we're funding these projects, these actual projects that are going to happen where it's really going to hurt us is in the telecommunications, which hasn't been studied very well, I don't think.
Well, to me, telecommunications is simpler because it's going in a direction, it's not households, it's, you know,
Mhm.
that's what, because, you know, coming up with a figure running from Meta Bridge to Route 19 is easier to do than, say, serving sewer from Meta Bridge to 19.
Yeah,
It'd be more
because
difficult.
every turn,
Yeah.
you've got to put a station in.
You know, so I mean, and, you know, you got whatever it's called,
But every
So, I mean,
manhole,
you can't even, so no use in even trying to estimate that, would it be Austin? Because I tell you, I think there is probably 60% of the people unserved sewer in Fayette County.
Right.
And,
Well, go ahead.
I just don't know how to figure that, or how somebody can come up with them type of figure between now and Monday.
you can't.
Well, let me have a conversation with the chairman of the committee, and I'll get a better idea of exactly what he's wanting to do, and then once I get that information, I can send it to the three of you.
Okay,
Yeah.
and we can even send what in what we think or what shows the unserved sewer in Fayette County. We do have a map that does show the unserved. It shows the water served, doesn't show what other unserved that's needed, but it shows the water served, and but it also shows what sewer is not served in these areas. We do have a map.
Can somebody send that to me?
Yes,
Can you
sir.
email it?
I can take care of that.
Well, she'll email it to me right now.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
Okay.
Send him the whole thing.
I mean, Austin, are you guys gonna do allocations like to the granular level, or are you gonna say, okay, Fayette County has, you know, this 60% of population with unserved sewer, and if we allocate them X million dollars, then they'll be able to increase that to, you know, to where only 40% are unserved with sewer? Or are you going to say, you know, we're going to fund Armstrong Creek, or, you know, I'm just, you know.
It's my understanding that we're going to go project by project.
Well, Austin, how important is it to get this in by, now you said you're just figuring out how you're going to allocate it. Are you actually going to make decisions on projects Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week?
No.
Okay.
No. So we are on our meeting on Tuesday. The only thing we're doing at the meeting on Tuesday is figuring out how we want to prioritize and just things related to that. Once we get through that, probably at our interim meetings in January, which is right before the session starts, I think it's the 9th, 10th, and 11th, we may start making those decisions then. And I don't know that for sure, but I will keep you in the loop as to what we're doing and when things are going to be happening.
Okay, so we may have more time than we thought on this.
We definitely won't be allocating any money on Tuesday.
Okay.
What's his email address?
But I'll text it to you, but it would help you to at least have some overviews and things like that to.
I think the map to start with us
Yeah.
outlining some water projects along with it.
If I can get, as soon as I could get the projects, because what I want to do is, as soon as I get the projects, I want to go to the chairman of the committee and then to the committee, and you know, I want to get as much of this money to Fayette County as we possibly can.
I'll tell you what, the map, if you give you've got,
I'm sending it to you right now,
okay.
in email.
We're gonna send you a map
So you can
of
just
the
copy and paste it.
the present water service and the unserved, or it shows the sewer service. Actually, you can see the unserved by looking at what sewer services is served. Doesn't give the remaining of unserved water, but there is a substantial out there. And a list of the projects, but between now and January, we can try to come up with the others that's unserved.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you can get me as comprehensive of a list as possible, I want to take a list of as many projects as we can. I mean, if we can get, half of them funded, then we can get half of them funded. But I at least want it to be known that these are the projects that we need help with.
Yeah, I feel like the sooner we get our projects under their noses, the more present they'll be in their minds when you guys do allocate funds next month.
Right. And like I said, once I find out when all this is going to be happening, I'll make sure to keep all three of you in the loop and just so you know what's going on and when it's going on.
Yeah, I noticed that too when I first looked at it.
It. So, I mean, that's why I think we're looking at data that's 4 years old or older. I mean, that was just,
We're discussing that in the map that we have of what's available, that it does not show that the town of Fayetteville is having sewer, which we know it does.
I didn't understand why. I thought.
Okay.
But we do have the very detailed list, or I think detailed enough list for you from from Region 4 on the PSDs that have some stuff, and then we have the town of Anstead's regional sewer project, where it's proposing to service adjacent areas in addition to the town of Anstead. With what it has now, it's going to require some upgrades and then extensions once the upgrades are complete to accommodate the extensions.
Okay. And also, if there are any specific road or bridge projects that you might have, please send those my way as well.
Just about any road. Have they fixed
Because I believe we're getting
60?
Yeah, I believe we're getting a total of $3 billion over 5 years for roads. So that, we'll be able to, that'll be on top of the money that the state already had allocated for fixing roads. So.
What is I keep hearing all this talk about all this focus on the Eastern Panhandle. And I'm just wondering how it is that, those areas that are pretty well developed already are getting, do you have any idea what's behind that? Is it because of the population, or, because I'm up there and I don't worry about my suspension and stuff when I'm driving on those roads. I don't understand what's up with that mentality.
I think it has to do with the population, but I will say that those of us from southern West Virginia have tried to steer the narrative back down south because we have focused a lot on the Eastern Panhandle. Not that I have a particular problem with that, but we also, when we have such big issues in southern West Virginia, I think we need to spread the love a little.
So do you need the priorities for next week's meeting, or can they wait until the January meetings?
Well, we, no money's gonna be allocated this month, so if you wanna wait, you can, or if you wanna send me what you have so far, you can. It's totally up to you.
You just, as long as you don't hold our feet to the fire on what we're gonna send you now. If we update it.
Well, I'll take everything to them that you send to me. I can promise you that.
That would give him talking point.
Yeah.
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 All right, we're gonna try to work on this, Austin, to get an idea, and then we'll try to break it out. If Ruth can use her magic program to do that, so we can put it in some kind of an order for you.
When is your well, when are you going to be doing? Are you going to do that today?
Yes.
We thought we had to have it done before Monday.
We thought we had to have, at least you gave us some good news, because we thought we had to have everything done before Monday. So now, you know, I think we can provide you some things to work with, and we may reorganize them a little bit.
Okay. And when's the next commission meeting?
15th.
Okay. Can I be added to the agenda on the 15th?
Yeah.
Or is that too soon?
I think we can even schedule a special meeting if we wanted to.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's probably more appropriate, because that's a really crowded agenda.
Okay.
And so we can give this, because it's obviously there's more, we've asked Region 4 for more information.
You want to set a date before Christmas, so we can have everything ready for him, and we have the meeting before the date, have the stuff before the date of his meeting.
We can, and you know, we have a January 5th meeting, which precedes that meeting too, that if we need to finalize a letter or whatever, we could vote to do that day. Yeah, but in the meantime, we can have the meeting to discuss what will go in the letter and finalize it on the 5th. So you want to look.
I'd like to be there in person, just so we can.
Well, we don't mind. You don't even have to wear a mask here.
There we go.
Okay, so do we want to have it? We'll probably need to have it before the 15th, don't you think? What do you guys think? What your schedules look like? Because Christmas week is the week after, well, kind of, Christmas is on Saturday this year, so.
As long as it's before Christmas, I know. I got a lot of stuff between now and 15th.
So let me see. Ruth, are you and Amy both going to be here the week before Christmas? 20th?
I have no idea what Amy's schedule is. I think the 23rd I won't be here potentially, but other than that, I don't see anything on the calendar, so.
22nd.
I think that's getting close to a lot of people being out, like if we want other people to attend the meeting that week.
I know
We could do
17, 18, 19, 20 possibly.
What about the 17th? That way we could avoid the people who are taking the week before Christmas.
Sounds good to me.
Friday the 17th.
Sounds good. We're in a meeting the 15th, and we'll have a meeting the 17th. Yeah, that's fine. And also be here on the 17th.
Okay. Austin, are you available on the 17th?
Hold on one second. Let me check my calendar.
You going to Disney?
Oh, really?
Oh, okay. So,
See what it says here.
oh,
We can all go to Disney with
if
you.
all of you are
or
in
me.
Disney, then I don't think that's going to work. This- Steve, what day is your Christmas party? Because somehow I put it in on Christmas Day. I think my calendar just decided.
Yeah.
That's what it's like.
That's next Friday.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I put it in here, but it went, I thought I typed it in right, but it went straight to Christmas Day, so it's like
I'm rubbing off on you.
my smart calendar outsmarted me.
The Montgomery Christmas parade's tonight.
I knew about that. I'm going to be down there tomorrow, most of the day for.
For the, you guys going to the open house?
Yeah, and there's some art thing going on and
Yeah. a new
craft,
art gallery.
yeah. Going down my,
I'm giving away a trip to Disney tomorrow, so.
I was gonna do
Yeah,
that, but
tomorrow.
I'm glad that you're doing it, so.
So I'll be set up at Kia.
So what do we think? So it sounds like you guys are not gonna be available the 17th
16th through the 20th.
through the 20th.
Yeah.
It's today the 3rd. You guys wanna try for the 10th? 9th? You have a lot going on
I have a
before
lot
then.
going on between that.
So 21st,
That'd be fine.
Whatever begins that day.
21st, Austin, 21st of December.
21st, that works with me. There's nothing on my calendar that day.
We can even do it the week after Christmas if we think we'll have more people
The
around.
auditor will be here starting that week.
So that'll be a nightmare for you.
Man,
Okay. All right, so back to the 21st. We go. Hopefully, most people will take the week between Christmas and New Year's off and we can catch them before Christmas as far as Region 4 and the outside participants. So 21st at 10, 9, how do you want to do it? It's gonna be a long meeting, I
Doesn't matter to
think.
me. 9 o'clock.
Let's just set it at 9.
Sounds good.
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock on the 21st. And let's identify participants so we can invite
Region 4.
Region 4. I think we need to invite the PSDs. I'd like to invite Jeff Proctor because he's been involved in all those telecommunications meetings. The transit, our transit people, I think they should, because we've got 190 million for public transportation. So I think if we give them all notice now that, we want to know what your priorities are.
Well, I think Region 4 handles it too, don't they? Do they not?
No, I mean, they do a little bit, but not a whole lot. They do a lot more with roads. Which there's some interesting things that may be happening.
So transportation, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
fine.
Well, because I was looking at how this money's allocated. So we have the roads allocations, the bridges, public transit, broadband, and water and sewer.
Yeah.
So those are the groups we need to hear from for those pots of money.
So we can invite Austin from NRT. And then we need to get the person from Summersville that's working on the valley.
On the route
Yeah.
down to the valley. Because that's a big deal, and
And
that's
tree
come up in
access.
these comp plan meetings,
What's that,
about,
60?
well, transportation for seniors and, well, anybody
okay.
around the
Yeah.
county and to be able to get,
Yeah.
Abby, am I right? I was discussing this with Abby the other evening, but yeah, I mean, that's something that's come up, just being able to get people transported around the county. I mean, we don't have that. We don't have the ability to get from
One side to another.
here to up the mountain, down the mountain. We have a very small range of public transportation. And the fact is, most people here can't afford, I mean, a lot of people can't afford. don't have
Austin
cars.
just planned for all day,
Yeah, it's gonna be a doozy.
which is,
We'll be there with bells on.
this will be a good one though.
I
Yeah,
want to see you wearing bells.
I don't. But, but anyway, so I think
Maybe we should prioritize like certain times for water and sewer, certain times for transportation, certain times for that.
I think that's a good idea. So we can set the agenda
Set the agenda for that. That's all we talk about is this funding.
during that part,
We're getting 1 hour for this, 1 hour for this, 1 hour for this,
right?
on broadband and sewer and water and then transportation.
And this is to set hard priorities.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the sewer and water will definitely take more than an
Yeah,
hour.
yeah, you're
And
right.
that's for the purposes of state level funding, not for the purposes of our ARP funds, which we
Right,
can
Right.
sweep up
Yeah.
next month.
Yeah, our ARPA funds, we can use that off of the comprehensive plan.
Right. So for now, though, we need to come up with some tacit priorities for Austin to,
And I'm gonna start on,
all right,
we'll
well,
start on that, I'll start on which we come in the middle.
well, no, I mean, like now, like I think, don't we have to today to give him,
Oh, okay, today, yeah. Well, I think we give them the map and what we had there.
Plus, we need to put the priority.
we have to prioritize
Yeah,
these.
well,
And we'll do that.
to me, three projects that I forwarded would be me. And I can't answer for you two, but I'm gonna tell you my thoughts. It's Meta Bridge
Mhm.
and the two New Haven. And then I would do fourth being the Canyon Rim Visitors Center. Sorry.
Well, they have to have those 13 million in upgrades. Am I right about that? Before you could expand to
I
Canyon
think,
Ridge.
I think federal should, and I think they will. I think that they'll come up with the money for that. I may be wrong, but I think the money's gotta sit there.
I want to know what it's going to cost to expand between, Fayetteville and Route 60. I mean, I haven't heard anything about that, and
To
we've
me,
talked a
I'll be
lot
honest
about.
with you, to me, you need Route 60 to Fayetteville, I'd start with 60 to 19 and let branch from there. I mean, to me, that intersection is most important. I wouldn't go from Fayetteville to 60, I'd start at 60.
Well, so we have the numbers here that Steve gave us. So it's another 17.5 million to get from Anstead to 60 and 19. And high, right, then we would have the 2 points, and then our GRDA might be able to get some funding, because that's really what they look for, is how you can connect it and what's going to develop along the.
Well, one thing that I've been watching, when people ask for money from the state, if you ask for 100,000, they'll come back at 70,000. So if we ask for the full project amount of 50,500, they're liable to counter back with, okay, we can do 42,000 or 42 million, which definitely gets us going on the project.
Then we can choose within here.
That's correct. So my three would be the Anstead sewer project complete.
The 13 million.
No, the whole 50 million. The whole amount. My second, it would be New Haven 18 and 19, especially with picking up the new customers, because both of those are definitely built around new customers.
But those are funded, except for an offset. Those are funded.
Well, the Anstead sewer project is one.
No, I'm talking about
All
New
right.
Haven. The New Haven
Okay.
18
Yeah,
and
they're
19
funded.
are funded, except for the offset that we're taking a look at
That's
for
correct.
down the road. So,
Okay, but if we could get the offset,
but then we have people, for what we might put into an offset. And I think that's an ARP related discussion. I think we can look at the offset for that, but for getting state funds for fully scoped projects, the New Haven district, the Anstead upgrades that it requires to expand service to these three areas. And then we have others in here that, like Meadow Bridge, that don't have, that are going to get new customers. I think that's what we need to look at.
That's why I asked about how many new customers would be on the Anstead to the Canyon Rim Visitor Center.
I think that's going to be more, I think that's going to be fewer new customers than it will be. And I would like us to characterize that as households or something instead of customers, because it's going to appeal more.
how many visitors are going to go to the Canyon Rim? Think of
Well,
each one of those as a customer.
Well, I think some of them are economic development related, and some of them are people who don't have any service at all right now. So, I mean, Meadow Bridge is one that's going to have a substantial, it's going to, a 50% increase in households served in the Meadow Bridge project.
Yeah, I think Meadow Bridge, I agree. I go with Meadow Bridge 1.
And then, and again, I like the Anstead upgrades are gonna feed into these expansions. So I look at it in this list that he gave us, we've got these upgrades that are required to even get to these. So I think those need to be phased.
In this, and these two, the 18 and 19 here,
Mhm.
there's other unserved homes beyond these areas. Is the only reason I really want these maybe changed with the funding and the loans. And if the loans, lowered, in my opinion, it'd be easier to do the extensions. I'm just giving my thought, extensions to the other unserved areas in that area, beyond where the water is served. That's the only reason I was thinking about these two areas here from New Haven Public Service on 18 and 19. And then I went back to 4 on Canyon Rim because of that, because there's still unserved areas beyond 18 and 19 in beyond Sunday Road section and the Airwood section. The Airwood beyond.
Well, then you also have the internet that we could say, hey, you're gonna have broadband. If we look from Meadow Bridge coming down,
So Hico,
yeah, so that was 18 million.
I thought it was 2.5.
Well, total project is 18 million, so our, yeah. Take the $45,000 a mile times the 32, that takes you up to 13 million, so that leaves us roughly 3.5 million. To pay on that.
But it's gonna be
25%.
more than 45,000. Remember, it's gonna be like more like 80,000 a mile because of the fleecing.
Well, I put 70 government. So. But I mean,
Yeah, that's, I got 2.5 million.
2.5.
2.5.
80,000.
Yeah, 80,000.
2.5.
2.5, yeah.
All right,
So-
so 2.5 million there.
Yeah.
Like that too.
So,
But as far as prioritizing, that's the way I feel about it. Meadow Bridge, the 2 New Havens, and Canyon Rim, in that order.
well, Canyon Rim can't go until Anstead's 13 million.
Well, it's all in the same project.
Oh, you're just calling this whole project Canyon Rim.
Yeah.
So Meadow Bridge, you said New Haven, and that's just the offset New Haven.
Offset New Haven, the only reason I'm talking about offset New Haven is because then there'll be more money, in my opinion, or
For
another
it to
loan they
expand.
can get for expand to even more unserved out there.
Now, let me ask you this though, for this funding, because I feel like the way, when you were discussing it earlier, the New Haven offset, I was thinking that that would be a good expenditure to consider for the ARPA funds. Like for this, for the purposes of what the state sends us. I mean, there's no reason why we couldn't include it in there.
What's the timeline though? Because if they're gonna allocate that over 5 years,
Mhm.
and this project's already in process, right?
Yes.
It would just be to offset that loan. If they don't allocate it until 5 years from now, is that too late? Which is why I think the ARPA funds will be better.
And also they're wanting projects that are, that they can see, okay, here's a complete project we can fund, I don't know if an offset would appeal to them as much as it does to us to help
Okay.
our people.
Okay,
I just thrown it out there.
21st to change it. You got my mind changed.
Okay.
So I think that Anstead is going to be offering a lot more from Anstead down to 19, including the visitor center. That they're going to say, well, yeah, this is a no-brainer because this is going to allow for a lot more expansion to happen into the county and give us the ability to service the Canyon Rim.
I think we need to categorize these when we send them to them in the categories of the funding. So within, like, we don't have to prioritize the broadband over the sewer because that's under the broadband funds.
That's
So
right.
under broadband, this is our priority under broadband. Under water and sewer, these are our priorities under water and sewer.
And
So-
then the bridge is gonna be food for.
Well, right now, I agree with you, Meadow Bridge one,
Meadow Bridge, and then,
instead of Canyon Rim, number 2.
and this entire 50 million is number 2, or are we gonna break it down within that?
I would,
I'd leave the whole amount.
Well, I think we need to ask for the whole amount, but I feel like if they, pin him down, we know that the Anstead build out, the 13 million has to be put in place before any of the rest can happen. And then of the 3 expansions that he lists here, the Canyon Rim versus Hyco versus Turkey Creek, what are our priorities within there?
Well, I think that.
Like, I feel like the Anstead
well, I tell you what,
upgrades have to be first.
well,
because-
instead to Canyon Rim and then fall back to the 2 New Havens. But you're saying there's another fund that would take care of that line.
I'm saying that I think we should consider under the New Havens, I think we should consider those as priorities for the ARPA, for our own county level ARPA funds. Because you're
Okay.
talking offset of 2 million for New Haven, and we were allocated 8.1. So I think that's a fair, like, when we're looking at projects that will benefit the whole county, like New Haven gets its part, in that form.
You gotta remember, we're talking about broadband too in this.
Yeah, but it's coming out of a different fund too.
A different pot of money. So with regard to what we're getting from the state, it's divided from in the categories
Okay.
of
Okay,
water,
yeah, I
sewer,
see what you're saying. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
broadband,
Okay.
public transit,
Okay.
bridges and roads.
Okay.
So under the water and sewage category, we've identified Meadow Bridge as a priority because at the cost of 3.8 million, we should be able to serve 50% more customers there.
There's hundreds of some customers.
Yeah, 145. So they have 265 now. So it's almost more than 50% more.
Now, is that just sewer or is that sewer and water?
Water system rehab and extension. So that's water.
That's just water.
Yeah, which is a
New customers is
big deal.
145.
Yeah.
right. So it's a huge increase in new customers for that PSD.
Yeah.
So then we talked about Anstead upgrades, which are 13 million just for Anstead to be able to expand to anybody. And then we're looking at another 15 million to extend to Canyon Rim. And then if we want to extend straight up to Hyco on Route 60, that's another 17.5. So that would be our third priority, right? On the Anstead projects.
Yeah.
And then Turkey Creek. But so we're looking at Meadow Bridge and then the Anstead upgrades. And then our third priority under sewer and water would be extended to Canyon Rim, right?
Mhm.
And then our fourth would be to Hyco. And then under broadband, it's the Meadow Bridge to Hyco upgrades, right?
Yeah.
I didn't ask Austin whether wireless would.
Well, I tell you, I really think you have to get right now, I think they're only funding fiber right now. And the only concern is fiber right now.
We should probably look
Because
at,
you can't have wireless without some fiber.
yeah,
I mean, you can't. So you might as well figure a hard line and then everything else comes second.
okay.
I can check on that if you'd like.
Hmm?
I can check on that if you would like.
Yeah, I would like to know. I mean, at least,
I thought that's what Region 4 said.
well, that's what he was saying about the ISPs, but I feel like there are areas where we could put towers in to improve service to a lot more households, maybe with the ARP.
What fiber we gonna hook up to?
Well, in areas where we have fiber, but not good reception and things like that, or
You're talking
households
about
that
Suddenlink and
maybe, I mean, I'm talking about like putting towers in to almost like repeaters to get a signal to be able to go farther to more households where they can have broadband through wireless until cable can be run. Like, you know what a repeater is, like to strengthen a signal or whatever. So if we have broadband, like if broadband's in Montgomery and we put a tower somewhere, and I'm just, without knowing the technology, but like, at the mouth of Kimberly Holler, would people up there be able to get service?
No.
Well, on the mountain up there then.
Still, you have like a 5-mile range. Depending on if they put repeaters on it, then you can go up to a 15 to 18-mile range. And that's a circle to cover.
Okay. And then you have the line of sight issue with the mountains.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm just.
I mean, up through there, that would be
I know what I'm talking
Tetris.
That's okay, I'm sitting here listening.
It's overwhelming problem. Okay, so under broadband, though, we're talking about fiber between Meadowbridge and Hyco.
Yes.
Where else?
I mean, I don't know, I mean, I was gonna do some mapping. I was just gonna do some mapping, just for the heck of it. But to me, if we have service there at Bridge, that's the only place to bring it in, is 60 to 19.
Mhm.
But there's a few different routes coming from 60, 41, I think you always talk about 41 and 20. Talking about a straighter shot, 25 miles instead of 30 miles.
Okay.
But I mean, we can map it and see.
Yeah, that's where, I mean, there's a lot of roads. 39 takes you up going up towards Summersville, and that would help us with joining into them. You got Nowlin and all those places along the way, so it's a.
I know what John was telling us about, but I just have to think that if we had, and I'm not saying for that purposes, this exercise, but if we had a regional plan that was a big dollar plan, that we would be able to attract larger companies to bid on those plans.
But if they don't have the fiber already here, how are they gonna get the fiber to where?
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to explain it to you, but if they would have to, let's say there's somewhere out of Charlotte, they would have to bring their fiber here. These guys don't share fiber. Am I not making sense? Maybe I'm not.
I thought they did lease their fiber to each
Yeah,
other.
I mean.
It's publicly owned. It's not publicly owned fiber to the service providers. But if they lay it though, they don't share the same inbox.
So how can it be publicly funded? Is that what Montgomery's doing, is publicly funding?
I'm not sure about it.
Yes,
Yeah.
They have Lumos already on Segra.
they're a private. Public.
Partnership. PQ.
Yes. Thank you.
But yeah, I think that's what they're Montgomery's paying to lay the actual.
They don't wanna, I mean, we could, if that was the case, we could already have, what you're talking about up.
I think we definitely need to draw some lines and look at the roads that would be best beneficial. But at least we have the one from Meadowbridge to Hyco, which one I think would benefit. And then we could go on down into Instead from there. How many more people could we get hooked up to it?
And along 19.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. It's just that we've got to sit down and make good decisions. And you've gotten good at that mapping stuff.
I'm gonna draw some stuff.
Okay.
I'll start playing with it.
Okay, so for the purposes of giving Austin priorities for next week, on the water sewage stuff, Meadowbridge, Anstead upgrades, then the Canyon Rim expansion, then the Hyco expansion. For broadband, Meadowbridge to Hyco.
Yes.
And we really, other than Boonesboro Bridge, which he already has in his mind, for public transportation, we really don't have anything identified yet priority wise, but we will hopefully.
And Austin, will you be able to tell us what that what's underneath that transportation? Like give us an
Say
outline.
that one more time for me.
Would you be able, are you gonna be able to give us an outline of what's considered under transportation?
Yes, I will have something for you.
Okay.
Well, and I think it wouldn't hurt, given that the Golly River one could mean a lapse of funding to Mount Olive. We could
Yeah.
add that as our fifth.
Okay. That's okay.
Yeah, because that's a huge drain.
Well, if we have an emergency, we could probably try to,
We got-
argue for reallocation
Yeah,
too.
we got this for him now, and then we're gonna meet him again the 21st. We got.
And in October, shoot, in April, we'll have that complete list from Thrasher. Having an idea of what it's gonna cost us
When?
in April.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Assuming the new Omicron variant doesn't set us back months and months. So, okay. All right, so can we, Gabe, can your office put together a letter and submit it to Ruth that puts these priorities in the Meadow Bridge, and then get the details from the document Region 4 sent? Do you have a copy of the document Region 4 sent us? You send it to Gabe and Abby, please. And so the priorities, Meadow Bridge, and I'll give you a copy of this. The Anstead 13 million would be second. Then the expansions, third and fourth, and then the Golly River PSD, which is also in this document, the Region 4 sent us, is our fifth. Under the water sewer funding, and then under broadband, we would like to. No,
This is the legislative.
this is what we got from the federal infrastructure project. The allocations that the state is going to start talking about next week. And under broadband, we have a Meadow Bridge to Hyco, which we estimate would be a 2.5 million project based on maximum mileage, the longest route between those areas, because it's about, we rounded up to 80,000 a mile, because it's 45,000 a mile, but then the government tax in all this extra money. So it's 80,000 a mile for about 32 miles to plant fiber along the route. And that's the broadband project. And then we haven't setting priorities for anything else other than the Boonesboro Bridge, which Austin already knows. So really, we just need to prioritize the water sewage projects and our broadband project to submit to Austin for the purposes of this. And then we're going to build upon that for our meeting on the, what do we say, 22nd, 21st, 22nd, 21st? Look at my calendar already. Yeah, 21st, Tuesday. And then we'll have a lot more detailed data, but you guys could put together a letter and get it to us for approval. I'll edit it.
That's fine with me.
And then we can, but I think we vote on the priorities. The letter will, reflect those priorities. I can edit it and then we can allow them to stamp it once we all take a look at it and email. Does that work?
Yeah.
So I move that we set the priorities as discussed for water sewage infrastructure. That is Meadow Bridge, number 1, Anstead upgrades, number 2, Chestnutburg, or AKA Canyon Rim expansion from Anstead, number 3, Hyco expansion, number 4, and Golly River PSD upgrades, given the Mount Olive imperative, number 5. So that's water and sewage. So I move that we set those priorities and document them in a letter to the legislature.
I second with a subject change on the 21st.
Yes. Yeah. So our priorities for the purposes of next week's legislative meetings, until we get more information. And then the Meadow Bridge to Hyco fiber project as our broadband priority.
And subject change on the 21st.
Right.
And in the letter, I guess we
Just a second. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Well, we're discussing, pushing out the motion.
All right, so
I'll
let's,
go to the second. I'll go to the second.
So, yeah, I think we should say in there that these are given the, because you're meeting this week, we want you to know based on this amount of
Right.
time that
okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second.
to send a letter to the legislature identifying the priorities I just listed for water, sewage, and broadband as our current priorities, given the current timeline, to be revisited more fulsomely on the 21st.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
So when does he want that letter to edit? Because Austin needs it
Today.
today.
Yeah, by close of business today. It shouldn't take long. I mean, there's some copy and pasting that can go in there.
Yeah.
I mean, we really just want to identify them. He has the supporting documentation. So we just, I think just a summary of what the project is, significantly on the Meadow Bridge one, the new customers, there's 265 existing, 145 new. So we want to identify that in the dollar amount. And then for Anstead, we have this great breakdown here for those next, 3 priorities I mentioned. And we can put, the dollar amount and the economic significance that Anstead is going to be able to expand out to AOTG and Canyon Rim with that one expansion, and the other one out to Hyco, which is Route 60, which services the Route 6019 area. So that's the significance of those. The Gauley River PSD significance is Mount Olive. Those upgrades need to happen so we can continue to provide infrastructure in Mount Olive. And then the broadband impetus for the fiber between Meadow Bridge and Hyco is to connect 64 and 60. So then we can expand from there on the fiber. So that's just the summary of why those are the most important to us.
Anything else for the good of this body?
Yeah, you have the ARP fund. Y'all never voted on that.
Oh, yeah, we need to vote on
It's
that.
on the agenda.
You only done one thing on the agenda.
Yeah, we have that first.
No,
one.
I don't think we voted on it.
Oh, not on that.
No, you never voted on it.
Yeah, we need to vote.
On that issue, we did not.
So yes, we have other things to look at.
Yep. Sorry, John.
I know, he's got that gavel at the ready.
Yeah, she did hand you a.
That's the form.
Oh, we're just
Y'all
putting
never
on the
voted
form.
on it?
Yeah.
And Tom said he wanted to tell you where he wants it to go.
This is why you warned me last meeting that it was coming. He told me to buckle down.
I want it on the website. I'm gonna send it to the mayors.
Know where the form is going.
Yeah.
I thought you meant the money. I was like,
This has everything on it.
And they can get on our website and copy it off. They can,
And when Amy gets back, she can put it on Facebook and share it.
yeah, and, yeah, when they get back, after they fill one out, we'll put it on there so people can see what they, apply for.
And I also think, if you've seen Canal counties, everyone they've received, they posted on their website.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think all of it, everything out there.
We can even do a survey on it if we want to before we have the funding allocation meeting.
I will make a motion to approve it.
Well, wait, I have a change.
Oh, God.
Well, instead of individuals or communities served, let's say number of individuals, population or something, or percentage. I mean, Yep.
Thank you, Mr.
You're welcome, sir. Let me finish reading these bottom ones.
Are you writing on what you want to write, what you want to change?
I think we also need to have a follow-up of how the money was used.
And the rest of them.
You mean if it's awarded?
Yeah, if it's
Well, I mean, you
awarded.
could make that a condition of the award.
Okay. If it's awarded, all project data must be sent to the.
In progress or delays.
Yeah,
It's like that Meadow River, that trail
Oh.
thing is driving me nuts.
yes.
we keep hearing delays and no progress.
You might have
Oh,
some
the
good
Memo
news.
River Rail Trail?
Yeah.
Might have some good news.
Yeah.
Might be an alternative. They're working on it.
Actually, been an alternative for a while.
Yeah, I think these need to be vetted projects. Like, I feel like if people are submitting something for funding from us, that these projects, like, I don't want to see somebody saying, like me guessing, that it's going to cost me, $10,000 to put a fence in my backyard. I want to see an estimate, before anything's submitted. Like, if you're asking for money, it needs to be like these PSDs have come in with, and, ANSA has come in with on we've had this research, this is the engineering estimate, plus, build in the increase in materials or supply chain
That's
issues.
listed under number 5 too.
Those chairs aren't forgiving.
The problem with getting those estimates that you're talking about is have a cost. I
Mhm.
have to hire an engineering firm, pay for that to get those estimates.
So perhaps they need to let us know if there's a study cost involved. Either, I feel like we all got a little bit of money in there. I feel like if somebody wants to fund a study, that they should come in with the request. Like, Gabe just put in something for Oak Hill, but it didn't even, participate in. But that, if we study where the funds can go, and then once we have a study, then we can prioritize what we're going to spend it on. Because, we may think that the broadband is going to cost 2.5 million, find out it costs 5 million or something.
Or if you think your project's that valuable, that you come in and we co-op funding for the estimate for the engineering, excuse me, right?
I'd almost like to see. I think we need to add any other sources of funding for the project, like whether there are grants or other things that might help fund it. I don't want people to come in and just put their hand out. I want them to put some work into what this request is going to be, because,
Well, on the front page, it says your financial contribution.
Yeah.
We can put other financial contribution. And they're telling to detail that in their.
yeah, any kind of funding,
attachment.
other funding sources is,
Where it says project summary description, I wouldn't even give them lines. I would say, type us out your plan. Because
Well, they
people-
can put a sentence right there, but they have to include a detailed project attachment.
I think it
This is
should,
your summary page.
Yeah.
That's it. This isn't all the information. If that's all they submit, they don't get any money.
but some people have had studies and do have completed things, but you're right. I mean, if somebody needs to come in and request money to study a certain thing, we can do that, but I don't want to feel like we have so many studies and so few realized projects.
I mentioned something.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
I don't think we've addressed the unserved customers in New Haven. List you will send you.
Well, that's,
And I just wonder, but maybe by the 21st, we can have something.
Yeah.
I agree. Allison, what you need to get, at least a preliminary cost estimate.
Yeah, we would love to have that, because that's a priority to us, out of the ARPA funds and out of, and this too, if we can move it up, but
So would you all consider, what Ken's talking about, giving a little bit of money to the New Haven PSD so they can hire us to do it and try to get something.
let me ask you a question. That map showed the other unserved, didn't it?
That's right. I don't have cost on it. We have to work up
Well, let
quantities
me
and
ask
costs.
you, since we're talking about that, what is the cost per mile to put in sewer and water? You're an engineer.
I don't know the top of my head.
Okay.
It depends on the rock and if you've got to go through
I just.
railroad
I can
land.
figure pretty quick, I just.
Yeah, well, if-
Last couple of days, I keep it up.
Yeah, we're talking about that, and there's rocks everywhere in West Virginia.
That's right.
I mean, you can't go anywhere with that rock in West Virginia, so just figure all rock.
And it always changes anyway. What we do is we take the last contract that we had bid, see if it's similar to one we're gonna go to, we use the old,
Yeah.
previous bid tag, it's all bid tag.
So I mean, if you can get some of that stuff,
I can do that.
you know what I'm saying? I agree with the uncertain. I mean, you need to have something in there for that.
So we all be willing to do that, and I mean, I would, Thompson would love to help. I
I don't know whether we can say we give you the money today or not.
Well, it has to be up to up to Kenny to come in and request the money for an engineering study being done.
That's not on the agenda, so you couldn't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the agenda for today.
Right.
Can you do it on the 15th?
No, 15th is too packed.
Is there anything that West Virginia American Water already has?
Since you're not sure, they're not gonna have anything on. Mayor, do you have another copy of that, of your breakdown? So we can give Abe a clean copy. Abe, just a second there.
We need her next.
Yeah, here, make a copy of this too.
I'm good. I think
Yeah, my notes have the number of priorities written on it.
So don't lose it, that's what she said.
Oh, no, I know he's gonna bring it back. No, I was just saying, because Steve was handing him a blank copy, and I'm like, my notes have what we just voted on it, so he'll be able to see the full.
Man. Different projects. So this is your Chestnut Road extension.
Mhm,
This would be out to Gorge.
mhm.
You had 60, we take it out. Shade Creek, Oakwell, up through Victor, all the way up to Middle Trail. It's standalone Turkey Creek.
Do you have copies for it?
I have a couple copies. 3 copies.
That sounds good. John, yours is bigger than that.
I've got worse vision. Okay, so
I'm gonna-
going toward Sugar Creek, that's where your station is. going to-
Shade Creek
Yeah,
Here, you
Our-
can
our
look at,
plant-
you can look at that.
okay,
plan.
our plant is a star.
okay.
Okay, that's where our plant's located.
All right.
So
you
all of
already
that
have-
small lines is Ansted.
Okay, do you already have an interconnection from your plant to Shade Creek?
No,
Okay, so that's gonna be included.
that's gonna be part of the Hyco extension.
Okay, and what about Turkey Creek? Is there? a
Turkey
connection?
Creek, no, Turkey Creek itself would be a standalone green system
Okay,
that we would then pump.
all right, and Chestnut Road, Ames Heights?
Chestnut Road, it goes up on Russell Hill is what the first extension is.
Okay.
Goes out Gaymont Mountain
Mhm.
and then on out to US 19.
The people that live at Gaymont, they'll be so happy. Good.
That's the map that we're currently working on the projects. that can get listed.
Thank you, Mayor, appreciate it. I'll tell you what, for someone who just came in an office, you really
Mhm.
jumped in with both feet. I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
You and Greg Ingram, both really impressive.
Yeah, you and Greg.
Hold on, I'm almost done with my suggestions on this one. I just want to run them by you guys before we close.
I gave him one, but I wrote it down. How did you get that sheet?
I didn't write nothing on mine here. I feel kind of left out.
This is what I wrote on there. Put that back on her thing. Yep, there won't be no cleaning today.
New cleaning.
Yeah, at the farm. I've got to go down to Montgomery and get ready to be in the parade. At first, he wanted me to play Santa Claus, and I said, no.
Okay. Is that yours right there?
Yeah, that's what I gave to,
Okay.
Let me see those. I want to see, I want to make sure.
So I'll read mine because this is just one. So on the first page, I just put any other funding sources or potential funding sources. Like people need to do their research to see if there are other ways to grants or available. Because that's really how most of this is done. So on the second page where all this, these subcategories are, I put beside the individuals or community served, instead of that, I put percentage of Fayette County residents served. Because that'll help us figure out, how broad it will be. How do you tie this directly to the COVID-19 pandemic? When on number 5, where it says information on any estimates already received, I want to know any other funding sources that exist or that are possible. I want to see some research, like, are there grants that you can apply for? Like, what's your plan? Because to come in and just say, hey, we want you to pay for this whole project, that's going to take away from other projects. And so I feel like they need to be fully fleshed out and thought out instead of just, I need a loan or money for this idea that I haven't researched. You know what I mean? And then if there are phases to a project, I want to know what they are, because if we want to fund, like Steve presented us here, we need this to be able to do this, but his first phase is a complete project in and of itself. Second phase is a complete project in and of itself. So that's all I added, just like a little more detail in the detail sections. And so, John, yours was any municipality. So under the funding sources, that would include the municipality funding. You want me to write that on here?
Yeah. Other ARPA funds. ARPA funds. Think of it.
You don't say ARPA.
I say ARP, but I've been saying, who knows what I'll say next. I have not. So do we want to move to approve the form with those
I think so.
edits?
Those edits.
I make a motion to approve the request with the edits from Ms. Taylor and John.
I second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the form. Any discussion?
Post it on the website as we receive applications.
I mean, I would like to have that if the other commissioners doesn't mind.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I agree. So the application will be posted on the website and Facebook page, but also
I'll get Amy to email it out.
All
any
completed.
applications, all completed applications will also be posted.
Amen.
What's our internal process for vetting them? Are you going to vet them? Or are you going to have Gabe's office vet them, or to make sure they're in compliance with the Willie?
I think we ought to put together a vetting committee.
Yeah, the three of us.
I might get Willie.
But yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like the bid process.
Okay.
And if they're in good shape.
Right.
It's done.
All right.
And they have to be complete by whatever deadline. So. Are we going to set a deadline? Do we need to set a deadline for this round?
I mean, you don't have a comp plan, and you're tying it to a comp plan. So
All right. All those in favor? Aye.
I'm concerned that we don't have a deadline.
Oh, we can change it.
you can set a deadline.
We can set a
Yeah,
deadline, so we can think about it.
Well, I think we need to set a deadline, and then because we have half of our funding right now.
Well, we don't have to, we have to have it allocated by the 24th. 2024.
and
Okay.
spent by 2026.
Okay. Okay.
And it's just.
I'll leave that alone.
Okay. All right. Any other things for the good of the body?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a nice evening.